Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 372 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in the Ukraine, and also covering a little bit of news from yesterday because it caused quite a stir when we put it out, and we have to go back and make a small clarification. But we also have to double down on some other stuff. This is probably going to be incredibly shocking for most of y'all. Of course, the map is brand new because it's a brand new week, so all the markers are on yesterday's map. But here on this span, in between the Kerch Strait, on the Kerch Bridge, right where that little red dot is seen on the bridge that lays out the 14th and 15th spar, last night, a video was taken by a car passing through that area showing that the railway bridge was completely out of operation as repairs were undertaken on top of the railway bridge. When we initially reported that news, due to seeing it in the dark and also being told last night before the news that the work lights were apparently a part of a gantry, which I also tried to check after the stream with some people to see if we were thinking we saw something like that, and we thought we did, there is a small correction to be made. The one span was standing, but the entire railroad bridge is out of action. That news was correct, and today that came out in large form across all of Twitter, as today's daylight pictures show that there are railroad repair vehicles on both sides of the railroad tracks. One span has been removed, and a second one in the pictures has visible fire damage that appears to be quite severe, showing that while the Kerch Bridge, according to CBS, NBC, whoever the hell it was that put out that clip, was operational for a little bit and trains were using that railroad, it is now out of operation. And from what we've been told, it is not expected to be back in operation until June, an entire 3 months from now. So let me go here real quick, because it's now time for a merciless plug. Here's our stream. Here's the description. If you go down here, you can check out our Twitter. And on our Twitter, we made sure to put out the article today showing exactly what we said last night. Just wanted to make sure to clear that up because we make sure to put out news that we actually believe in. We don't sit here and try and clickbait. And that video last night showed that the bridge was clearly out of operation because there is absolutely no way on a bridge, even if it's only one span that's been removed, you're going to have railroad crews working on replacing a span and have trains passing right beside them. That is incredibly hazardous and dangerous. And even in this picture right here, which I'll get up on large screen, you can see the second span is still there. That is correct. I will give on that one. That's correct. The second span was there. However, it is also suffered from severe fire damage, much like the first one. The first one is completely gone, and you can even see another railroad service vehicle on that. I believe it's actually the westbound track. This is the eastbound track here that we're looking at that's been removed. The westbound track taking up that span, showing that the railroad, the bridge itself, was entirely unusable. And so that news was true, and we were the first one to cover it anywhere on YouTube or anywhere in the mainstream news. I
just got to say, I gotta give you credit, Enforcer, because I have to admit I kind of had my doubts last night, but after seeing these daytime photos, you were certainly correct.
Yes, and one thing that I try and do is I always try and do the homework to put this out, and apparently from what I've been seeing, some people have been saying that the original thumbnail was misleading because it showed a fire. The reason why that original thumbnail was picked, and I didn't know it would cause people to have a mental breakdown, was that the damage that we're seeing them taking the bridge out of action for was the damage caused by that explosion and fire months ago. And now we're seeing that they are taking the bridge out of service because it cannot handle the stresses anymore of having rail traffic run over it. That's the reason why that thumbnail was originally picked. And then, because, apparently the entire world, including a channel, had to lambaste us over news we were reporting that was correct, I tried to make sure that the thumbnail was a little bit more accurate and instead just showed the bridge and not any fire or anything like that. So, with that, I hope that does address a clarification there real quick. It wasn't both spans, it is only one, but the bridge is entirely out of service for the next 3 months, critically hindering Russian supply efforts in the Crimean Peninsula and all the way to the southern banks of the Dnipro River near Kherson. But we had to make sure to clarify that, considering that it was a massive row last night and it caused an incredible stir. But of course, another
Where are
thing,
the bots tonight, though? I don't see the bots in the chat tonight.
I don't see him. I don't see him tonight. That is fairly interesting. And also another thing, make sure to join our Twitter. It has been blowing up actually compared to what we thought it would be. It is absolutely going crazy, and you can find the link to that Twitter in the description below, right here. So if you're on desktop, it'll look exactly like this. You just scroll down, click Show More. Twitter's right there. Go to Twitter and join it. The Lee Spring Army plans on expanding out, not just from YouTube, but just about everywhere we can, and having a presence wherever one is available. So make sure to go join it and help the Lee Spring Army to grow and spread across all of the internet and become a domineering force if for some reason it needed to be one. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from that incredible Twitter post. I also have to give credit to a viewer. I don't think you gave me the name of that viewer, but a viewer gave this to Matthew and shared it with him, showing what we were talking about last night was not clickbait and it was true. But can we give credit to that viewer if you know who they are, Matthew?
It was actually 2 viewers. I can't remember the exact Twitter handle, but it was 2 people from NAFO. So big shout out to NAFO for coming in and providing some backup to our claim yesterday.
The NAFO boys were in here repping the set, and I got to thank the NAFO boys for helping us to get this information out there because, of course, we always try and make sure to report on the news, and it appears that we beat everyone to the punch on this one, to the point that it was absolutely unbelievable to just about everyone, well, not everyone, just about a quarter of people and some other random people out there in the world. So great to know that we actually got that story right and wanted to clarify the details of that story, so that way y'all didn't go around and just hear some random person saying that we're clickbaiting the hell out of stuff when there's actually actual news to back up the claim. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the massive news we got today. And this thumbnail is pretty wild too. It's kind of wild like yesterday, as explosions were heard just a couple of dozen miles outside of Moscow. In fact, this is the closest we've ever seen full-scale explosions occur near Moscow. Many of y'all may remember that months ago, Tu-141 missiles hit the airports at Ryazan and Saratov, damaging and also sending the Russian Air Force into a straight panic as their strategic bomber fleets were directly being targeted by Ukrainian forces. And it appeared that the Ukrainians could strike as far as they want. And we've even, just as recently as 2 days ago, said that we could, that hypothetically, the Ukrainians may be able to reach Moscow. And up until today, we didn't really know if that was possible or not. But in a, I guess you could say, a connecting town into a major highway leading into Moscow, the town of Kolomna, we heard and saw massive explosions occur today that appears to have hit a large target. Now, initially, when I looked at Kolomna, I'm a little bit at a loss because I don't know what is here that is worth hitting. I mean, this seems to be... Wait a minute. What's this?
Wait, what?
This is a logistics service, so this is a warehouse. So that's not special. I was about to be like, wait a minute, I think we just found a base. Let's see, this is Zvezda. This has a perimeter around it, but I don't know if that is a base either. It's related to an energy company, though. We can see that. But I'm not seeing anything, at least that sticks out to me. And of course, some of y'all may be able to find that information out there right now, because when I put together this news, it was about an hour and a half ago. But nobody really knows what it... Wait a minute. Oh, buddy. What the hell is this thing? I do not know what this is. It kind of looks initially like a concrete plant. Maybe. Or a cinder block factory. So I don't know if that's strategic or not. Well, I'm trying to piece this together because we still don't know what these explosions targeted and what was hit. But we did hear the explosions and we did see the massive roaring fire in the middle of the night. And so here's the clip. Well, here's the first clip. And we're going to have to go to Twitter real quick. Much like we're on Twitter now, we're repping the set out there. And so here is audio from a security camera. I don't think we saw the explosion in this one, but we can hear it. Right there. Now, once again, we don't really know what caused the explosion. It could have been a drone. It could have been partisans. We're not exactly sure at this moment. But we did see that the fire appears to have raged to an incredibly large size and may be completely uncontrollable. So here's the video clip of the fire that came from that explosion. And as you can see in the distance out there, the fire is burning quite nicely, kind of like a campfire. We see it burning and roasting out there. It almost looks like a sunrise on a very cloudy morning.
Сначала был дым, сейчас вот такое вот зарево. Как-то так.
And that's the end of the clip, but you can see that a roaring inferno is occurring out there. This appears to be miles away from the source of that fire, yet the fire appears to be incredibly large. Once again, we don't know exactly at this moment. We wanted to break the news because something has happened right outside of Moscow, just a few dozen miles away from the capital city of Russia, where 10 million Russian citizens call home. We don't know what this is, though, and we don't know what caused it. We didn't hear or see any videos of missiles flying into Kolomna. Usually we see those whenever it's a missile attack, so that may be ruled out. This may be a partisan attack, due to us not seeing any missiles being used. But interestingly enough, missiles don't always have to be used, and the damage doesn't always have to be massive, because while we saw that a massive explosion occurred just that far away from Moscow, let's measure from the inner ring road how far that is from the very dead center of Moscow. Just less than 50 miles. Just less than 50 miles. That means that may as well have been, back on February 24th, the Russian forces crossing right over the border in Belarus and into Ukraine to try and capture Kyiv, and that's how close that explosion was. Absolutely crazy to think. And so as we move on out of Russia, we can see that the damage doesn't always have to be massive. In fact, it doesn't really have to even be visible, and you can decommission a several $100 million aircraft with a scratch. Because you see, we also covered on the news that a A-50 had been damaged or destroyed in the area south of Minsk at the Malushny airfield. And we can see this airfield right here. And even on satellite pictures, which apparently was taken before the war, you can see two Ilyushin 76s here on the runway. The A-50 is the AWACS version of the Ilyushin 76, and you can see a picture of one right here. And you can also see a picture of this phone. Make sure to get your Samsung Galaxy A-50 today. It also comes with this airplane. But moving on from that, you can see the AWACS right here. And we found out, and we saw the video today, Matthew, of what actually took this aircraft probably out of the war for the rest of its duration.
And was it a drone?
It was a drone. And you wouldn't believe it. It didn't even have a bomb on it. It just scratched the AWACS dome on top of it, and that took the aircraft out of the war entirely. So let me show you all this clip, because it's absolutely crazy. We actually saw, I didn't include this clip today because it was like 5 seconds long, but we actually saw that A-50 take off from Malushny airfield today to fly all the way back into Russia to a repair airfield to have the entire radar dome replaced, well, the AWACS dome replaced, because the small scratch that this drone gave it rendered it completely unusable, apparently, at least from what we've been told. When you see the drone flying right over the freaking runway, nothing shot it down. And just listen to that little thing go. Not a single Russian is out here to stop it. And there we have it. It's the A-50 right there. Now, let's ask the question, how much does an A-50 really cost? How much does an A-50 aircraft cost? The cost of one A-50 is $330 million. A drone took out a $330 million jet for several months. And we're about to watch that happen.
I'm shocked the thing got all the way through without any countermeasures getting it.
Yeah, just look at this. And also look at the collection of aircraft they have out here. They have something from like the Soviet era. Well, all of this is Soviet era, but this is like the 1960s. Right here. I don't even know what the hell that one is. It's like a TU something. Well, now we can see it going back towards the radar dome, and the partisans are like, oh, hit it. And here they go. They're about to land on top of it. And this is Neil Armstrong. The Eagle has landed. The Eagle has landed. Oh, it's scratching it. And there we have it right there. That's the $330 million scratch right here. Shit. And there we go. The A-50 was taken out of action with one scratch. Now you see the drone just hung out on top of the radar dome for a little bit. Now it's lifting off again. And now, with its little mission done of just putting the smallest scratch on top of that dome, it's now going to take another look around Malushny. And there's not even ground service crews out here. There's nobody here.
That plane is rusty as hell.
Yeah, it is. And there it goes. The drone's back on its way, flying right back over what appears to be the air traffic control tower and the runway, and nobody saw it until it was apparently until it left. So this was absolutely wild, and I've got to say a huge credit to the drone pilots that were able to pull off that landing, get that little car key scratch on the dome, which has taken it out of the war. The Russians only have 9 of these aircraft, and we just watched, I think it would actually be something like 11 to 12% of the Russian AWACS force taken out by one drone that scratched the dome. That's all you have to do to take that thing out. And so, with that, that's seeing that clip. Really nice to see that sometimes you don't even have to blow up Russian stuff to be able to take it out of the war. Sometimes you just have to give it a little scratch, and it's gone. Speaking of a little scratch, it appears that something happened today that may be scratching the Russians' ego, or it may be an attempt at a false flag. We're not entirely sure, because we've been hearing conflicting reports today on this from everywhere. We've heard from Russian local officials in the Bryansk Oblast that there are currently some kind of Ukrainian forces in the Oblast occupying 2 villages and slaughtering people. And then there's other local officials in the same area that are saying that absolutely nothing is happening at all. The Ukrainians are denying that anything's happening. So we have no idea what these are, but we did see videos coming out of the Bryansk Oblast today showing soldiers wearing yellow armbands, holding up flags, and saying that they're here to liberate the area. We don't really know what this is, and according to Russian reports, this unit has already been taken out, although we don't know how much you can trust Russian reports, because they also said they've destroyed about 5 Abrams at this point, and they haven't, because they're not even there. But here's our first clip showing Ukrainians, supposedly, and they're wearing yellow arm tape, so we don't know if they're Ukrainians, they're just wearing a lot of yellow arm tape, and they're in front of a Russian post office box. So here's the clip, and also I'll read you all the subtitles of what they said. We are fighters of the Russian Volunteer Corps. We are filming this video from Bryansk Oblast. We came here not as saboteurs, but a liberation army to the native land. Unlike Putin's army of executioners and rapists, we, and he looks off into the distance, we do not fight civilians. We came to liberate you. We're calling you to arm and fight against Putin's, Kremlin's bloody regime. Glory to the RDK, death to the Kremlin tyrant. And that's the end of the video, but one thing that I have seen a lot of people pointing out is that these uniforms are exceptionally clean, and I'm guessing that if they just crossed the Oblast border and they occupied this village really without a fight, they probably would look clean, but at the same time, they're incredibly clean. You know, like, they're almost so clean, Matthew, you could call these guys an advertisement for scrubbing bubbles. Because, yeah, I mean, like, they're very clean. I don't know really how to describe that. And also, interesting flag. But we also saw a similar video, once again being taken somewhere inside of the Bryansk Oblast, showing more soldiers holding up the same flag and giving another message. And so here's the clip. I don't think we had a translation for this one. Yeah, we did.
Перешел государственную границу Российской Федерации. Доказательства прямо за моей спиной. Мы не воюем.
We see them sitting in front of a sign, but I can't really see exactly what town this is. I don't know if it's giving the name of the town on either of these, but it doesn't look like it.
Гражданскими, не убиваем безоружных. Имейте это в виду. Теперь пришло время обычным гражданам России понять, что они не рабы. Поднимайте бунт, сражайтесь.
Мы, бойцы русского добровольческого корпуса, записываем это видео из Брянской области.
And now we can see the second video again, but once again, we don't really know what this is, because there's a lot of confusion going on around this. We don't know whether this is a Ukrainian force, whether it's a Russian false flag. We have absolutely no idea, because right now the Russians are saying giving about everything in between. They're saying that they're not there, they are there, they're taking hostages, they're wiping out villages, they're not there at all. The Ukrainians are saying that those are not their guys and no one's inside the Bryansk Oblast. We don't know what the hell is going on here, but I thought we would show these clips because they are something notable. And if this is a Russian false flag, and it seems like many of y'all are actually going with that option in the poll, which we will be getting to here probably in a little bit, I don't really know what this is. I would have to be honest with y'all. I'm gonna have to answer that poll a little bit early. I'm currently undecided because we don't have enough information to show what these guys are or what their unit is really. I haven't even heard or seen of this flag before, and at the same time, you know, this guy gave a pretty cheery message. You know, he's like, we're not here to, like, you know, conquer you or anything. We're here to liberate you. So, I don't know, you know, this guy made it sound really nice. You know, it made it sound like they're actually trying to start an uprising. But then at the same time, the Ukrainians say they're not even there, so we don't know what's going on. But I thought I'd share with you all.
I'm getting the sense this might be a Putin media production, but I'm not really sure yet.
And one thing I would say that is interesting, the Ukrainians are almost, in fact, I would say they're never spotted without helmets. This guy is without a helmet.
Yeah, that could be something.
Not
there.
only that, he's wearing the yellow tape like Russians wear their white and red armbands around the knees and the arms.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen Ukrainian soldiers do that much either. And then and then also, I don't think I've ever seen Ukrainian soldiers put yellow tape on their guns either. Like, I've never seen yellow tape on a gun, I don't believe. And if I have, it's been incredibly rare because I don't see that as a normal thing. So, you know, don't really know what this is. I'm going to let y'all decide, and we'll go with whatever y'all decide. But a lot of use of yellow, and the Ukrainians are saying that these are not their guys, and the Russians are saying that they're not there, and they are there, and they're committing war crimes, and they're not even existing. So we don't know what's going on right now. But, of course, wanted to make sure to share it with y'all, because if it is something, it is on the news. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into, well, actually not into, but out of Russia, and on into our location unknowns. But let me make sure we don't have any more. Oh, yes, I forgot. We have to also follow up a little bit of extra news. Some of y'all may remember that the Ukrainians launched those little rinky-dink Tu-141 drones into Russia again a couple of days ago, about 2 days ago at this point. These incredibly ancient missiles, for some reason, are able to avoid or not even be detected by Russian anti-air defenses whatsoever. But then again, that's not really a shock because the Russian air defenses can't pick up anything. But one thing that's incredibly interesting about these attacks is that one reached all the way down, not just into, I guess you could say, Ryazan or Saratov, or down towards the area of Yesk, which is right on the other side of the Azov Sea. It reached all the way down to Tuapse. This is not that far from Putin's little mansion. And so, you know, last night, of course, we didn't really get to see a lot of the damage. We just saw the fire raging in the darkness. But today, Russian, I guess you could say firefighters, from what we can tell, started to move through the wreckage, and we got to see how much damage was caused to this oil facility, and it was incredibly high. In fact, it appears that the entire oil depot was completely destroyed. Here's the clip. We can see what appears to be maybe 4 quad of silos over there that are intact. But everything else is burned to the ground. Everything's melted, and we can still see some oil fires going on over here to the right side that haven't been put out. Man, that's a thick smoke right there. What the hell is this? They just, look, this thing isn't even hitting the fire, Matthew. It's just hitting the side of the silo. Like, it's not even going
just watering
in there.
the metal.
Yeah, they're just, oh, we got to water the metal to make it grow a bit. What the hell?
The Russian solution to a metal shortage: water the metal.
It will grow eventually. We'll get more steel bleed. That's not even going to put out the fire. I know someone's about to say, oh, that's trying to cool down the temperature. Even then, you're supposed to, like, put the water in the area of the fire, not just throwing it on the side of the building. That's lame. We see him wandering around, and you could see loads of silos are completely gone. This one over here appears to have already burned out completely.
It looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, we can still, well, I mean, like, all of Russia looks like a junkyard, so I guess it's just turned into normal Russia now. But, man. Good lord, this entire place was just ripped up by fire. The fire apparently burned so hot it was able to melt most of the steel that was used in this facility. And we can see fires going on as far as the facility is. Also, Candy Nose Twinskin said, don't put water on hot oil. You know, I just realized, yeah, that even begs the question, why the hell are they using water at all? Like, why in the world are they even letting it hit the side of the silo? And because I just realized, Matthew, if you put water on an oil fire, I think it gets worse.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Let me type that in and make sure. I got to find out. Let's see. Does water make an oil fire worse? Got to check. Do not pour water on the fire. Since oil and water do not mix, pouring water can cause the oil to splash and spread the fire even worse. So, why the hell are they even using water at all? Why even let it hit the side of the silo? And some people are saying cooling it off. They do that to cool it down. I guess. Still, I don't know. It looks goofy to me. I'm going to leave it at that because that's hilarious looking. I mean, that just looks stupid. So with that, that's the end of that little clip. Thank y'all for sharing that, though. I forgot that you do not put water on oil fires. I used to say that at the beginning of the war, and then I've completely forgot it. So now it's like new tech, but it was like old discovered. So sorry, everyone. That was a correction on my end. And so we're now going to be moving on from TWAPs, but we can see the damage to that oil silo was quite severe. And also, that begs the question, how big is the silo? Oh my god. That is a huge oil silo, man. That's half the town.
Dang.
Dang, look at that. It literally goes on until the town ends.
That's a huge facility.
Man, I gotta tell you, that's big oil.
Yeah.
So I was about to say, this is cringe. It's supposed to be. But anyways, we're now moving on out of TWAPs. And I guess I can say that they really got twapped a few days ago. And now we're seeing how badly they got twapped. And so we're now moving on out of Russia, finally, because now we've covered all of the news there. And we're moving on in to Ukraine, because the news here has also been fairly wild, incredibly interesting, and slightly warm. And you can say that the Ukrainians are certainly helping out in the warming efforts of the Russian forces. Russian forces have been incredibly cold throughout the winter. These poor guys have gotten no winter uniforms, they got no winter equipment, they get no support from the government, they don't even get paid, but the Ukrainians are always ensuring that these guys will be warmed by the burning of their tanks, the burning of their APCs, and even the occasional explosion of a warm bomblet. And I gotta tell you, those bomblets never felt warmer until the powder is burning right on you. And so, with that, we're about to be moving into our first clip where we see some Russian tanks hitting an ambush and making sure to get incredibly well warmed. This is a special heating operation after all. We want to make sure these Russians don't freeze. And so, we're going to be checking this out. We didn't know where this was, so sadly it went to location unknowns, but this was a fairly large number of vehicles that were destroyed. When you see the Russian vehicles moving forward in a line, when you see the first one hit a mine, when you see an artillery shell explode over here, and then something, it looks like an ATGM, hit the third BMP in the convoy, sending the engine bay hood flying into the sky and starting the warming process. Things are getting warm out there. Quite warm. And as you can see right there, another oil fire is beginning. Remember, don't spray water on it. Spray water near it. So that way it looks like you're doing something. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And I gotta say, it's absolutely impressive to know that these little vehicles were absolutely torn to shreds. And also, it's good to know that those Russian crews will be warm, Matthew.
True that.
I mean, like, hell, I've got to tell you, Matthew, the Russians are always talking about they're cutting off gas to the Europeans. They certainly need gas right here, because it looks like to heat up a Russian for just a few seconds, it requires an entire armored personnel carrier's worth of oil.
Interesting.
Very interesting indeed. And I think the Russian government should put together a think group on this, Matthew, and really find out how sustainable this heating process is. And of course, it is a once-in-a-lifetime heating experience. You will never feel this kind of heat again. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that clip, a very nice one, and on into our next one, where we also saw the Russians blow up a captured Russian tank. Now, this is interesting. I wanted to show this clip to y'all because the Russians put this out like a victory. You see, this is a Ukrainian tank that is abandoned right here. And as you can see, all the hatches are open. You can see the clear cross markings on the tank, and also the blue and yellow up here on one of the tiles, showing that it is a Ukrainian tank, and all the hatches are open, also showing that it's completely abandoned. But notice something interesting here. Look at that tank. Look at the explosive reactive armor tiles that are laid out on this tank. Kind of odd, because I'd swear that that's not a Ukrainian tank. And believe it or not, it isn't. This is a T-72B3, and the Ukrainians had none of these going into the war, and I'll show you all that. All of these are upgraded variants of the Russian T-72B or the T-72A. They were thrown into factories inside of Russia, somewhere in the Ural Mountains, upgraded with new Contact 5 armor that was supposedly supposed to be greater and better than ever before. You can see a T-72B3 right there in a rehearsal for the Victory Day Parade. And they sent these into Ukraine. A massive amount of these ended up being abandoned by Russian crews due to them just retreating or cowering out and then running away. And so the Ukrainians, luckily, and we've seen this a lot, were able to capture one of these Russian T-72B3s. They then painted it up in Ukrainian colors and used it apparently until the wheels came off or until they had to abandon the vehicle. And really, the Ukrainians didn't even take a loss out of this because the Russians were the ones who had to spend $3.5 million to buy this tank, originally produce it, and then upgrade it. All the Ukrainians did was use it on lease. And so now the Russians are taking a video of one of their own tanks that was captured, and they're destroying it, and they're trying to make it seem like they're wiping out Ukrainian tanks. Kind of ironic in a way, because they're really destroying their own. When you see the tank right down there, we can now see them trying to line up the bomb. They actually got a crosshair on this thing. Now we can see them turning on the light, dropping the F1 grenade in the turret. The grenade exploding, the ammunition immediately starting to cook up at a very fast pace. And that's the end of the video, believe it or not. We just watched the Russians destroy one of their own tanks that was only rented by the Ukrainians for a short while. And talk about a rental, Matthew. This thing looks like it was used hard and dropped badly.
Yes. Yes, it
hell,
does.
look at this thing. This thing looks like it's been through the ringer. And you can tell that the Ukrainians obviously understood that this thing was certainly a rental and that it was not going back to its original owner no matter what. So I gotta say, huge credit to the Russians once again, for supporting the Ukrainians in their Lend-Lease efforts to try and fight the Russians and push them out of the country, and also making sure to clean up the loose ends and destroy their own vehicles after the rental is returned. Nice to see. Gotta keep it up. Gotta keep it up. And so we're now going to be moving on from that little clip of news, and I've got to say, absolutely wonderful. We're now moving on into our next bit of location unknown news, where we saw a picture of a Ukrainian Su-27. And this was a pretty cool picture, may I add. It was taken at some point in the twilight of the day, and we can see the afterburners of the Su-27 not burning in the bright orange that many people are familiar with most afterburners, but a bright blue. And I thought this just looked really cool. So I wanted to share it with y'all because that's the whole reason. It just looks cool. So look at that. Let's get it on full screen. Look at that picture. Isn't that impressive? Isn't it?
That is impressive.
I mean, it's absolutely wonderful. I gotta say, really cool picture. And always great to know that the Ukrainian Air Force is flying around in the skies and making sure to defend the airspace against the Russians. And also with a very beautiful afterburner, very beautiful afterburner color. And so we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of location unknown news and on into our next bit, where we saw a return of something that, if you're a history buff, you'll know about. You see, back in the day, the Maxim machine gun was an incredibly popular gun for most colonial era powers. And also, that is definitely not a Maxim machine gun. That is not a Maxim machine gun. So let's go type in...
Oh, we're starting simping now.
Everyone is about to go, "Wowee!" or something like that. But anyways, this is a Maxim machine gun. Not the woman, but the gun. Apparently there's a woman called Maxim. I didn't know that. Anyways.
I think it's a magazine.
Really? Why the hell would you call a magazine after a machine gun? But anyways, you can see a Maxim gun right here. These things were produced in the hundreds of thousands. I would even say millions. I don't know the exact number, but they're practically everywhere. Designed by Hiram Maxim, a man who lived in the great state of Maine here in the United States. He went to Europe and he was told by a French friend of his, while he was in Europe in France, listen, if you really want to get into the money, you need to find a way to kill other Europeans, because if you can find a way for another European country to kill a whole bunch of other Europeans, you'll make a killing. And Hiram Maxim heard that, and he said, wow, you got a great point. I guess I'll start working on that. And so he designed this thing. This thing was revolutionary and practically changed the way wars were fought, and almost all machine guns for the next 60 years after its original design would largely be based on the Maxim. The Ukrainians and the Russians have a large amount of these as well, and they've been using them currently in the war in Ukraine, both sides, usually in stationary defenses. We saw today that the Ukrainians brought back something that I just thought was incredibly funny. If you ever see on the internet and ever look at the Second World War, there was these things called the Gaz AA4M, well, the AAA4Ms. You can actually see kind of like a depiction of one right here. They were a gas truck that had a massive Maxim machine gun, 4 of them actually, mounted onto the back of the truck. I guess the most early iteration of a technical we have ever seen. And they would use these things to try and shoot down aircraft. And so let me see if I can find you all better. Here's a real picture of one. There's a picture of one with the engine cowling up. You can see the 4 Maxim machine guns lifted up into the sky on the back of the truck. And it's literally a technical, pretty much. Maxims in mass like this are also fairly dangerous. The amount of lead that they can pour downrange is massive. And also you can see that most of the pictures here that I've been trying to avoid are actually from War Thunder, funnily enough, because they have probably the best modeled Maxim AAA 4M in the world in a video game.
I wonder why the War Thunder pics like pop up in all the Google search results. Like,
I know!
The first options.
I know, look at this. When I type in Challenger 2, I bet you there will be a War Thunder picture. Yep, there it is. There it is. There's a War Thunder picture for it. Like, I don't know what is up with that, but they're everywhere. It's not a bad game, by the way. But anyways, the Ukrainians are bringing it back. It's like the 80s. It's like retro fashion. They're bringing back the Gaz AAA, and sadly, it's not coming with a truck. It's just coming with a stand. But we saw them working one today, and I thought this thing was kind of neat. It's probably going to be used to try and take down drones and Shaheds, but when you see the giant setup in the back, it looks absolutely bonkers. And when you see this guy trying to use it, and watch, it actually works.
Oh my gosh, that is legitimately cool.
That is so freaking cool. Imagine using that against infantry. That would be crazy. And let's watch that again. Let's just watch that one more time. Right here. That is so freaking cool. I can't tell you all that, like, enough. That is cool. I know it's ancient. It's archaic, practically. But it's really cool nonetheless. I'm a huge fan of this kind of stuff. You know, I'm a huge history buff. And seeing, like, the Gaz AAA return is somewhat funny in a way. And also, I guess it's finding a new lease of life, especially knowing that the Shaheds can pretty much be shot down with anti-aircraft equipment from the pre-war era before the Second World War. So, really neat to see. Gotta say, cool to know that the Ukrainians are still improvising and figuring out ways to use these old Maxims that they have in massive amounts in their inventory. And hopefully we'll see this thing in use shooting down a Shahed in the future. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into our second to last bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see a very sleepy Ukrainian soldier, and we can see another Ukrainian soldier teaching him a lesson. He's about to beat him to a pulp. I'm just kidding. He's about to do something funny to him. So, as we can see, the soldier, sound asleep, dead exhausted. We can also see the Predator patch on his chest. Really cool. We can now see the soldier take the F1 grenade he has in his dugout and take it for himself. He also takes the AK clean off of him. Guy's still sleeping. He then gets a rock. Well, actually a shovel first. He puts the shovel where the gun was. And then he gets a rock. And he puts it right over here on the side of the dugout. This guy is going to be scared to death, Matthew, when he wakes up and he's like, oh God, where's my gun? Where's the grenade? He's going to be like, what the hell happened? No, man, I feel sorry for the guy.
What are they trying to do? Put him on, like, trench duty or something because he was sleeping?
No, I don't think so. I think what they're doing is they're teaching him not to sleep when he's supposed to be on watch, because this right here, I believe, is him posted on watch to make sure that the Russians aren't sneaking up on him, and he must be so exhausted that just within a matter of minutes to getting to the post, he just passed out and he's sleeping. So now, I guess maybe the SL or the commander of the unit is passing by, saw him asleep, and he's doing that, like that, I guess you could say basic training thing that we always hear about, Matthew, from Friends, where they take the gun and then they just leave you sleeping there. And then when you wake up, you've got to, you know, keep on doing what you were doing once you finally wake up. Finally meet the SL again, and he'll have the rifle, and you'll have to ask, sir, can I get my rifle back? Which shows that you screwed up. So...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to get flamed.
Oh, he is going to be in trouble. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And I feel sorry for the guy, because while it's funny to see him messing around with him and replacing his gun with a shovel and the grenade with a rock, it's incredibly sad to think that the war is so tough on the soldiers fighting there on the front lines that they will pass out in a given notice because they're just so exhausted. And a lot of soldiers throughout many wars always account how exhausted they always were. A lot of World War I soldiers, as a matter of fact, have a hard time recalling what they did, not because they had shell shock or PTSD, but because they were so exhausted they were in a haze or a fog for most of the war once they got to the trenches. And so whenever you ask them, they go, I don't know, I was so tired, I really don't even remember what happened, even when they're like 90. And usually people start telling all of their stories of their life and what they did when they're 90, because they're trying to get it out there for future generations to remember. So sadly, I feel like this guy will not be the subject of interviews after the war, because he's going to probably be that guy, Matthew, who goes, what happened when you were at so-and-so place? Man, I don't know. I was tired. I was hardly getting any sleep. I don't even remember. Like, that's probably what the poor guy's going to be saying, but huge credit to him, still up there fighting on the lines. And also, someone said yellow tape on the helmet. Let's see. The yellow tapes on the helmet. I'm not seeing any on this guy. I'm not seeing any tape on him anywhere, as a matter of fact. But we do see a little, it looks like an American flag up there, actually, on his helmet.
Yeah, it's weird he doesn't have any tape on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why. But with that, that's the end of the clip.
He might have forgotten.
He might have forgotten. They're gonna be like, hey, who the hell are you? He's gonna be like, I don't know, man. I'm so sleepy. I don't remember. But anyways, that's the end of the clip. We're now gonna be moving on to our last one. And of course, this is one that everyone looks forward to every single day. It's the casualty report. Let's take a look at it. March 2nd, 2023.
Ooh, spicy.
The numbers are getting high. They're getting higher than Snoop Dogg. We can see that 715 Russian soldiers have been killed over the past 24 hours. An entire 20 armored personnel carriers have also been destroyed over the past 24 hours. 7 supply trucks, 2 tanks. That's okay. Not great. Not terrible. 3.2 tanks. Not great. Not terrible. 5 artillery pieces destroyed. 3 drones destroyed. 1 MLRS destroyed. And sadly, no Bobcat skid steers.
Oh, man. But still a nice catch, like, overall, like with vehicles and things.
Oh, yes, quite right. As a nice, good haul, 715 Russian soldiers killed over the past 24 hours. And I've got to say, they need to keep it up. Back in the day, which is literally just over the last month, the numbers were consistently up in the 900s to the thousands. That was just the average per day. Hopefully we see the numbers start climbing back up in that direction, because the more Russian forces that are taken out, the better and the quicker we'll see the Russian army get pushed out of Ukraine, and eventually the war will end. To ask for a quick war, you have to ask for a vicious one and a swift one. So sadly, I know that a lot of people aren't really big fans of wiping out large droves of soldiers, whether they be fighting for the Russians or not, but that is the only way this war is going to end. There's no way you can end the war quickly without inflicting massive casualties and conducting operations as ferociously and quickly as you can. Those are the 2 major assets of a modern war, is speed and ferocity. And through those means, the United States has been able to blow through the Iraqis in the Gulf War, the invasion of Iraq, and just about every other war we've ever been in, including the Second World War. And also, someone just said, Matthew, and I just realized this, Beeps and Eats, Finding Food and Treasure, said that it just passed 150,000 today. And I just realized it did.
Jeez, and is that the conservative estimate, or is that the pretty liberal estimate?
This one's the mid-range estimate, because there are now estimates out there saying they've lost 200,000 dead. The Pentagon is saying that it's around 70,000, I believe, or something like that, or just past 100,000. And so this one lies in the middle, around 150,000. So pretty wild to see, and it's crazy to think that whether this be high or low, it's finally passed 150,000. We just passed 100,000 on December 23rd. Now, 2 months later, we're halfway to 200,000 already. That means that probably by the end of April, we'll be seeing 200,000 Russian soldiers killed.
And let's see here. I was just trying to find a reference so I can get an idea of how much that is. It looks like, I pulled up the U.S. soldiers lost in World War II. It looks like the U.S. estimated it was around 407,000 military deaths. So they're at 150,000. So for one country, that's quite a lot for a war in Ukraine.
I would have to agree with you. That is incredibly high. But what is very interesting about Russian wars is that compared to Western ones, they usually just take
A smidgen of lag.
just a small amount. We're not going to let that stop us from reporting the news. Anyways, let's go to the Winter War. How many soldiers did the Russians lose here? So, over the course of 3 months, 1 week, and 6 days, the Russians lost about, oh my god, 126,000 to 167,000 dead or missing over 3 months.
Jeez.
Now let's go look at the Soviet-Polish War. Let's see how many casualties the Soviets took here. This was actually 1919 to 1920, which was pretty much in the middle of the Russian Civil War still. It hadn't actually ended yet. But let's see how many Soviets died. About 60,000 Soviets were killed over the course of... How long did it last? Late autumn. So from the 14th of February, Valentine's Day of 1919, to the 18th of March 1921, the Russians lost about 60,000 soldiers in that war. And this was actually a pretty big one at the time. After the First World War, a lot of people paid attention to this one and said it was a fairly high casualty war. But interestingly enough, it isn't that high compared to the war in Ukraine. So now we have to compare it with another war. And this one I'm going to be fairly interested in. And if y'all don't know, this war probably was the war that led to the First World War. If there ever was one, especially in between the Germans and the French, the Franco-Prussian War. This happened in 1870. It was kind of like a power play in between Otto von Bismarck, who was trying to unite the southern German states with the North German Confederation to try and create the German Empire, and he used France as a scapegoat. It was impressive diplomatic plays that Otto von Bismarck played, and there's no way you can say that Bismarck wasn't a genius in trying to unite the German nations into one country. But anyways, that's what the war was about for the large part. And Bismarck would succeed by declaring war on France. He would paint the picture that the French were the enemy of the southern German states, and all of those little states would rally together around Bismarck, and they would create the German Empire. But moving on down, let's see how many they lost here. Okay, so it doesn't actually pale in comparison at all to the amount of Germans that were lost in the Franco-Prussian War, and this only lasted for 6 months, 1 week, and 2 days, and over the course of 6 months, 1 week, and 2 days, the Germans lost in a war that most of y'all haven't even heard about much, 44,700 dead, and the French lost 138,871 soldiers killed. So an incredibly high number, actually, for a war that most of y'all probably haven't even heard about, and I gotta say, dang, I actually didn't think it was that high. I thought it was a little lower than that. But you know something else, Matthew? I was just thinking, why don't you let that free air roam? I just remember the Crimean War, which happened in Crimea, over Crimea, by the Ottomans, the French, the British, and also Austria against Russia. How many did they lose? So, casualties. This doesn't include, it doesn't appear that they're, I guess you could say, segregating the wounded and killed. So we're only getting the casualties. But it appears that the Russians lost 450,125 over the course of 2 years, 5 months, and 2 weeks. So if they keep up at the rate they're going right now, they will be passing the amount of losses in the Crimean War in the middle of the 1850s.
I won't be shocked one bit because they're literally just throwing people at the situation and hoping that fixes it. But we know it's not going to fix it.
Oh, wait a minute, hang on. There's a footnote here. Casualties include death by disease. In all cases, death by disease exceeded the sum of killed in action or died of wounds. I forgot about that. Whoops. That was actually a big issue back in the day. So a lot of these guys didn't even die in combat. They just died from, like, typhoid and things like that. But, yeah. I know. I feel like they're going to be passing the losses of a lot of the wars that were incredibly important in shaping Europe outside of the First and Second World War very soon, at least with how quickly they're taking them on right now. And so, with that, I hope we went over that loss report fairly well. And with that, we're now moving on out of our location unknowns and on into the frontline news. And we've gotten a little bit of frontline news from just about every active area of the front line today, all the way from Kremenna, which was fairly busy today compared to normal, and all the way down to Volodar, and even some unfortunate news in Zaporizhia. But before we get to all of that, Matthew has been throwing up those polls, and y'all know what I'm about to say about him. You know what I'm about to say, Matthew.
Yes, I do, actually.
It's absolutely bussin', and we got to get into those polls. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and for the first question segment of the night, we have 3 polls to address. And the very first one says, Ukraine claims it still controls Bakhmut, although Wagner claims it's reached the city center. And what are your thoughts? 57% said Ukraine likely still controls, 12% said unsure, 18% said I need more info, and 13% said the Wagner probably controls a good bit. Now, I did see the video earlier that was posted by, I believe it was Prigozhin, that showed some Wagner soldiers in Bakhmut somewhere, and he was trying to claim that it was in the city center. But the catch was, once you geolocate that video, it's actually about 1.2 miles away from the city center. So once again, another Russian lie trying to be propagated as if they were in the middle. So I'm going to go with the option that said Ukraine likely still controls. Obviously, Ukraine's getting hit hard, but they are holding nonetheless. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that is a straight up fabrication, because you are correct. When you geolocate that, they're nowhere near the center of Bakhmut right now. In fact, when you do geolocate it, they're somewhere in this area around here in Opitne. That is not the city center. That's a good ways away from it. And they got a long ways to go if they're fighting directly through the city to finally take anything in the city center, because they've been fighting on the eastern end of the city for practically months on end now and have hardly been able to advance a few city blocks every month. So it'll be a while before they ever make it to the city center if the Ukrainians do not withdraw. And so I would have to say the Ukrainians still do control Bakhmut, and based off the geolocation information, that was really stupid of them to put out something like that, Matthew, because they gave away at least where the Wagner unit was at that moment the picture was taken.
Yes, very stupid. And they set up that entire like scene to get that simple little video. And I'm sure that they were probably lucky to get out of there alive.
That's very true. Also, Matthew, I saw a comment that I got to read this one because it just missed me how in the world these two things correlate. So, you know so much about every artillery piece ever made, but oil fire safety escapes you. Well, how the hell are those two things even correlated? That's like saying, so, you're a car mechanic, but you don't know how to file a mandamus? Like, it's like, what the hell? It's like, those two things are totally different. Yeah, I used to know it, but I completely forgot it, and then someone brought it up again, and I was like, oh yeah. So, with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. I don't even know where the correlation is in that one. But with that, we are on to the next poll, and I hope we address that one fairly well.
All right. And our second poll says Russia claims that Ukraine conducted a terrorist attack in Bryansk and Ukraine denies. What are your thoughts on that claim? 50% said it was a false flag by Russia, 16% said unsure, 28% said it was probably partisans, and 5% said it was likely a Ukraine attack. Now, we did watch that video earlier, and many people were pointing out that their accent didn't sound quite Ukrainian all the way. I'm not totally sure about that because I'm not an expert in accents. But I'm going to go with it was probably a false flag by Russia. I don't think you.
Sounds like we'll have to call them out. Call them out. But getting back to answering that, I got to be honest with y'all. I don't really know. Are they Ukrainians? I mean, probably not. No one really knows. They are wearing yellow. In the videos that they made, they didn't really seem incredibly violent. And there are also political concerns, talking about the political aspects inside the Russian Federation that you have to keep in mind. If this was a Russian false flag, how does that make the Russians look good? Or how in the world does that embolden... Excuse me.
Excuse you.
Thank you. How does that embolden the Russian population? That, in fact, will put the Russian population in massive fear because it appears that the Russians aren't even guarding the border, and the Ukrainians should just cross wherever and go anywhere. So I would say that that's actually a huge detriment to Russian forces and the Russian government instead of a benefit. So there's a good credit there to be said that they may be Ukrainian, because there's no way I can see that benefiting the Russian government. But at the same time, the Ukrainians are fervently saying, those are not our guys. They're not affiliated with us at all, and we haven't sent any forces into that area. And that wouldn't make any sense because they're clearly marked in yellow. And if the Ukrainians did send forces in and they didn't want any accountability to come back to them as to those forces being theirs, they would make sure that they didn't wear any identifying markers whatsoever. They would not wear any Ukrainian markers. They wouldn't wear yellow tape. They wouldn't do any of that stuff. So, right now I've got to say I'm undecided, because in either direction there are good points to say they could be Ukrainians, because it doesn't benefit the Russians at all for them to say there are Ukrainian forces running wildly through Bryansk and we're not really able to do anything about them. And at the same time, the Ukrainians are denying it. And why in the world would they be denying it, but also having their soldiers dress in the most obvious way to make it look like they are Ukrainians? So this is just, I don't really know what to make of it right now, to be honest with you all. So I'm going to remain undecided, and we're going to let time pass and see how that story develops before I make a final statement on it. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Very interesting results in the poll, but I feel like most of y'all, the ones who voted that this is probably a false flag, are probably in the right. Y'all are most likely in the right. It's just that I'm going to give it a little bit of time before I say it as well, because who knows, because it's weird. It's incredibly weird. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right. And our third and final poll of the first question segment says investigators say Russia, quote unquote, pre planned and financed the torture centers in Kherson. And what are your thoughts? 66%, which is the majority, say it proves Russia's genocide. 6% said unsure. 21% said it was expected and known already. And 7% said, I'm going to need more evidence. And this one to me proves that Russia went in with a plan to conduct these atrocities, and they simply didn't do them in the fog of war, which makes them liable for everything done, including Putin, because he must have been the mastermind of it. And they should all be held accountable if that's possible one day. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I wouldn't doubt that at all, that they funded and set up those torture chambers. They were clearly operated by the Russian government, so I wouldn't say that it's out of the norm at all. Oh, well, not out of the norm, but out of the question at all. It seems to be a certainty that they certainly did set those up and run them deliberately. And hopefully the people who were a part of that operation and a part of torturing even kids, like we saw kids that had been interviewed after the liberation of Kherson that were tortured in those chambers. And hopefully the people who ran them will be held accountable. And not saying that the rule of law should be forgotten about, but maybe there will be some frontline justice for them, because considering that they tortured kids and adults alike and even ended up killing several of them is sickening to say the least, and an atrocity, a crime against humanity for certain. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next poll, if we have one. If not, we're on to the questions.
All right, and that was our last poll for now. So our first super chat we're going to address goes to Jesus UCSB, who is a NAFO member, and puts in a very generous $50 donation. And says, "Hola, it's Jesus UCSB." And yes, I got it right, thankfully. He says, "I love the show, as always, but I'm sad you aren't following me back on Twitter. I'm shedding a tanker tear, lol. And hashtag NAFO, hashtag LSA Army."
And thank you so much for the support, Jesus. I have to make sure to say Jesus, because we said Jesus for so long now it's kind of stuck in my head. But thank you so much for the support, Jesus, UCSB. I mean, Jesus. Dagnabbit, I literally just did it after I said it. Thank you for the support, Jesus, UCSB, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, it wouldn't be possible for us to keep this thing rolling. So I got to thank you for that. But I have to say, Matthew, why are we not following Jesus, UCSB on Twitter?
We need to follow him.
We need to
he is NAFO.
He is NAFO. He's a NAFO rep. He's repping the set, kind of like Super Bonker. He reps the set. So we'll make sure to give you a follow back, hopefully, here in the future. And I got to thank you so much once again, Jesus, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because folks like you make this stream possible. Without it, we wouldn't be able to eat. We wouldn't be able to go to college. We wouldn't be able to prepare to go to law school, because that is a thing in the future. Hopefully that'll be happening in the fall, because we've both been accepted. So yeah, we're still counting down the days, and also rounding out this semester, which has been a hell of a headache for me because it's midterms week right now, and there's essays due all over the place, and I'm trying to get those done in the background. But I thank you so much once again for supporting us and helping us to keep this thing running, because without folks like you, Jesus, this wouldn't be possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that addressed that one fairly well. And from the Elite Spring Army Commander to Elite Spring Army Tanker, I thank you so much once again, and I hope you keep tanking it. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is another generous $50 donation from Spencer. And Spencer, it's good to see you again. He says, Slava Ukraine, and answer a question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support, Spencer. Welcome back. I think it's been a while since he's been here, Matthew.
Yeah, it's been a while, I think.
It has been a while, and I got to thank you so much for coming back, Spencer. I hope you're having a fun time here tonight. I hope you're enjoying the news, and we will make sure to grab a live chat in honor of Spencer. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Well, I guess, us needing to get to the live chat fairly well. And with that, Matthew, what's the live chat?
And the live chat question goes to Josh, who says, what is your guess on how the war turns out in the end?
How the war turns out? Well, of course, I don't like the crystal ball, because, some people out there really enjoy when folks crystal ball about things, or when they say things that they don't really know about. And we try and avoid that, because if we say something wrong, we get blasted. And then if we try and, I don't know, say we don't really know, then we get blasted anyways, because we didn't really give an answer. I can't really crystal ball the war for you. A lot of people like to do that, but I feel like that's a dumb thing to do, because nobody really knows how this war is going to end. Things change day by day, and through the end of one day and out to the next, the entire situation can change, and therefore the war can change in its own right. But there are several ways that this war can end. We're going to go through all of them from the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the great option would be that the Ukrainians push the Russians all the way out of Crimea. They also pushed them all the way out of the occupied areas, Donetsk and Luhansk, and they reaffirmed their 2014 borders that they had before that uprising began, and they sign a treaty with the Russians, and the war ends. Then they eventually become a member of the European Union and the United Nations, well, not the United Nations, the EU and NATO. That would be the greatest scenario. That is 100% the best way it could go. The good scenario that I'm seeing, and once again, take all these with a grain of salt, because this is all the predictions that I'm making, and things could also turn out totally different than what I'm saying. The other option, the good option, is that the Ukrainians are able to reclaim their territory, but the war never officially ends. And the Russians continue to lob missiles across the border. There's an ongoing conflict on the Ukrainian border, and because of an ongoing war, the Ukraine is never able to join NATO, even if the war goes cold, kind of like the war in between North and South Korea, because North and South Korea never signed a peace treaty with each other. North Korea and China just signed a peace treaty with the United States, which ended that war in 1953, and the South Koreans decided not to pursue it because there was no longer any American support behind offensives. And so, technically, North Korea and South Korea are still at war today, and also Japan and Russia are still at war to this day, because they also never signed an official peace treaty with each other at the end of the Second World War. So it could end like that, and if the Ukrainians are still officially at war, even if there are no missiles flying into Ukraine and there's no active battles going on the border, they will never be able to join NATO. And that may even make it very difficult for them to join the European Union, because that will throw in a bunch of concerns for the Europeans. What if the war went hot again? Now they have to potentially try and defend the Ukrainians. What if all of the investments they make in Ukraine are promptly destroyed by Russian missile attacks? That could start throwing in a lot of questions. But still, the Ukrainians would reclaim all of their lands. The United States would get the best situation out of this entire ordeal, because we would have the Black Sea Fleet kicked out of Sevastopol, and it would be a Ukrainian-controlled port again. So in the United States perspective, this is actually a great scenario. But for the Ukrainians, this is only a good scenario, because it doesn't allow for everything that is great to happen. The bad scenario would be that the Ukrainians only take back some of the occupied areas and the DPR and LPR, but they're never able to take back Crimea, either due to nuclear threats from the Russians, or for some reason these marshes and swamps that make up the neck of the Crimean Peninsula heading into the mainland are too difficult for the Ukrainians to cross, and so they never are able to take it. This is a bad scenario because, one, this does not achieve the strategic concerns for the United States, and second, the Ukrainians were not able to reclaim all of their territory that they lost in 2014, and the Russians will still have a fairly large strategic edge. Not only that, if they continue to stay officially at war with each other, like in the good scenario, the Ukraine still, once again, cannot join NATO. They may be able to join the EU, once again, a fairly difficult decision. I don't know if they would or wouldn't, and then it just goes on forever, but we never really were able to achieve the perfect objectives. The ugly scenario, and this one's the worst, so, keep in mind we're going from best to worst. This is the worst of them, and then there's a whole bunch of other side shoot options, but I won't list all of those off. The ugly option is that the Ukrainians are never able to conduct a successful offensive beyond this point, and the areas and ground that the Russians control right now, they control well on into the future, and the Ukrainians or the Russians eventually get ground down, or both of them may get ground down so badly, it enters a period of stagnation, and then that stagnation becomes permanent, and then these become practically the quasi-official borders in between Ukraine and Russia. That is probably the ugly scenario we'll see. Once again, they'll never join NATO. They seem to kind of be on the track to join the EU even right now, but that'll be questionable, especially if they're never able to achieve anything in the future. And so that is the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I would see happening inside of Ukraine and how this war may turn out. Of course, that's not a straightforward option, and once again, I don't really like to crystal ball, because there's so many people out there who do crystal ball about, the war will be over by such and such date. A lot of people do it on every side, and they're never right, because a lot of Ukrainian, pro-Ukrainian people say the war will be over by the end of last year, and we're now into March of this year, and it's still not over. The Russians have continuously put out deadlines where they say the war will be over just next month, and it's a year and a month later, it's still not over. So I would have to say, I don't really I don't really want a crystal ball, but those are the most likely options I'm seeing that would happen from the best to the worst. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Also, to address something that Smog said real quick about this, because this is a good point. Smog said the EU is an economic union. The European Union has recently been trying to assert itself not just as an economic union, but as an actual sphere of power, trying to create a military that spans across the entirety of the European Union, or making a chain of command where the European Union can practically call upon European state militaries like some form of a national guard, kind of like in the United States before we started to streamline that process near the turn of the 20th, well, towards the turn of the 19th century. So kind of, yeah, it is largely an economic power now, but going into the future, it seems as though the European Union may be trying to create itself as an equal sphere on par with the United States, instead of being viewed as just an economic union, and each nation pretty much goes on par with the United States on its own. Not a bad idea from a power perspective, because it gives the European Union, if they all unite, a pretty large deal of economic power and also military power in the long run. But you know, that starts going into a whole bunch of other concerns that I can't go into because it becomes inherently political. So with that, I hope we addressed that question fairly well, and we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving into the frontline news.
All right, and the last one of the first question segment goes to Scott, who puts in a $25 donation, and thank you very much for the support. And Scott says, after doing an image search for that flag, I found it. It came up as a Russian Volunteer Corps flag. Keep up the good work, guys. LSA and Slava Ukraine.
Hey, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for finding where that flag is from. I still have never seen that flag, which is kind of weird to me because we've seen a lot of them. Like, we've seen loads of them, and that's the first time I've ever seen that flag before. And I feel like we would have seen it before now. But still, it is a official flag of a volunteer group in Ukraine. So who knows? But then again, the Russians could just easily make one of those and copy it. So I don't really know. But I do thank you for sharing that with us and also supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, because you are helping this news to happen each and every day, and also supporting us behind the scenes so we can keep it running. So I got to thank you so much once again for doing that. And with that, it's now time for us to move on out of the question segment. Thank you to all of y'all once again, and very good questions tonight. I hope we answered them fairly well. And we're now going to be moving on into the Northeast, because in the Northeast, some fairly interesting things have been going on. Of course, over the past 24 hours, you'll probably be shocked to see, and let the map load, that the Ukrainians have actually made a little bit of ground in this area, it seems, or at least the Russians are withdrawing back onto what appears to be the ridgeline that we kind of call the Svatove ridgeline, because it begins right at Svatove. So, interesting to see. It doesn't appear that the Ukrainians have advanced forward, but the Russians are moving back. Well, actually, wait a minute. No, they have advanced forward, but the Russians are retreating faster than the Ukrainians are advancing, at least according to Deep State UA. This appears to be attached in some way, shape, or form to the Battle of Kolomna, because we've been getting a lot of video evidence out of that area. But before we get down there, there has been a video of life in Kupiansk made by Radio Free Europe, which is incredibly interesting to watch, because it shows that while the people of Kupiansk are a good deal behind the lines, they are still in the line of fire. And so, here's the clip. Liberate Ukrainian villages face ongoing Russian shelling. Russian troops continue to occupy positions nearby. So the frontline Kupiansk district faces daily attacks by Russian forces. When Ukrainian troops liberated Kupiansk on September 10th, the city was intact. All the destruction we see started 2 or 3 days after the Russian troops retreated.
I think we're having lag.
Again?
I think again.
Look at that.
Man, that lag is just bad tonight.
I don't know why. So we'll wait for it to pass. Man, I gotta tell you, this is aggravating. I don't know what the hell's causing it.
Yeah, it's weird. Once the bots start showing back up really heavily, then the lag shows up.
Yeah. It looks like we're back in the green now. Kind of weird, because I never got a pop-up on my screen showing that it is okay again, but it looks like it's okay now. So we're going to back up a little bit and replay it, just in case y'all didn't hear it. So the frontline Kupiansk district faces daily attacks by Russian forces. When Ukrainian troops liberated Kupiansk on September 10th, the city was intact.
Оце все, що ми бачимо, воно все
All the destruction we see started 2 or 3 days after the Russian troops retreated.
Максимально звідси відігнали російські війська, почались обстріли, в тому числі
They started shelling critical infrastructure, houses, and industrial facilities.
Прилітає кожен день, особливо
They're
інтенсивно
shelling every day from
це
6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
години
and throughout the night.
ранку до десь 9 години ранку і вночі.
Neighboring villages have suffered a similar fate.
Їдемо у селище Петропавлівка, де окупували його
We're
збройні
heading to
сили
the
України
nearby
ще у
village.
вересні,
Although it was
але,
retaken by
приміром,
Ukrainian troops in
електроенергії
September,
там немає
there's still no
і досі.
electricity because
Більше того, що
repair crews can't
електрики
work
у
due to
селищі
constant Russian
елементарно не
shelling.
можуть працювати через іноді щоденні російські обстріли.
Locals sheltered in the basement of the school during heavy fighting. Russian forces continue to shell the village.
Більше 50 прильотів.
В день.
Ні, це за,
No, in the last 3 hours.
3 години.
Це логічне
Why aren't you
питання,
evacuating?
чому ви не евакуюєтесь?
Ну,
First,
по-перше,
my family is here. My
тут моя
husband,
родина,
his mother.
тут мій чоловік, його матуся. А чого я
Why would I
повинна
abandon my land?
їхати
My
зі
roots
своєї
and my
землі?
ancestors are here.
Тут мої корні, тут багато моїх родичів, які лежать на цвинтарі. І звідки?
Why would I
Чого я
leave?
звідси повинна їхати?
Families living on the front line can face impossible dilemmas.
Я Тарас. Селище в прифронтовій
This village is on the front
Обстріли
line.
постійно. Я
There's
поки-
constant shelling,
Ну,
just
а
like that one.
Чому ви не евакуюєтесь?
Why haven't you
У
evacuated?
мене батьки.
I have
Вони
parents. They're
не
pensioners.
старі. Вони пенсіонери, мамі 62
My mom is
роки,
62 years
батькові
old. My father is
68.
68
Він
years
сказав, я
old.
своєї хати нікуди
My
не
dad said,
поїду. Де
I
їх
won't
можу
abandon my
пустити?
house. I can't leave them. I just can't. What about your daughter?
Ну, це я
I
розриваюся.
can't choose between my parents and my daughter. The Kupiansk district sits at a key point in eastern Ukraine as they look over it with the camera. Artillery battles around the area reported to have intensified in recent weeks. Ukrainian military officials believe the attacks are a part of a new offensive by Russian forces. Well, that's one hell of an offensive because they haven't moved at all. They're getting pushed back right now. Anyways, that's the end of the clip. Once again, courtesy to Radio Free Europe. And you can see what life is like in the area of Kupiansk, which, according to the Deep State map, is a little ways away from the front lines, just a few miles away, but not that far, so it's in artillery range. And so with that, that's the end of that clip, once again showing what life can be like for Ukrainian citizens behind the lines, and while it's tough, the Ukrainians always prove to be just that little extra bit tougher. We're now moving on down into the area of Kolomna itself and the battlefields surrounding Dubrova. While we saw the Ukrainians moving around this area, we don't really know if it is there, so we just put these around the area of Dubrova, once again for OPSEC reasons, because we don't want to give away exactly where Ukrainian forces are. That's incredibly dangerous and can get people killed. Starting off with our first clip, we saw Russian footage from the Battle of Kolomna. We don't know if this is accurate footage, because once again, the Russians lie about everything, but I thought I would show it because it is in the middle of a torn up, I guess you say tree line, so it seems that it may be a little bit more accurate for that reason.
Пойдем, проходим потихоньку.
You hear the Russian talking as a round flies overhead and explodes. And you see the Russian now somewhat standing up, now pulling the pin on a grenade and tossing it. We now hear another round flying overhead.
Давай, продвигаемся.
Damn, does this guy smoke like 1,000 cigarettes a day? Why does his voice sound like that? We now see him running and getting down behind a tree and also breathing like an absolute goblin. He's now firing his AK-74. We can hear some more fire, but it doesn't sound like he's coming towards him. It sounds like he's heading away from him. We see him firing again. We hear him yelling out something. Now see him shouldering the rifle again.
Апельсинку надо, блядь, кинь. Я дантист, справа работает, справа.
Hear the Russian once again yelling out, aiming the gun, firing it a little bit.
Гранату туда ебашь.
We now hear some rounds bouncing off in the distance. We now hear him firing again, getting down. But it doesn't appear that a lot of progress is being made in this firefight. It appears that he's moved a couple of yards from tree to tree and fired some small bursts, but nothing is really happening. It doesn't seem to be a very intense firefight.
Проходим, проходим.
We now hear more fire. Didn't appear to sound like any fire coming towards them.
Так, братья, давай потихоньку подвигаемся ко мне. Есть кто? А?
And with that, that's the end of the clip. But once again, interesting to see. Apparently not a large firefight, which is always ironic coming from the Russians. Because with Ukrainian clips, we'll hear hell being let loose on Ukrainian soldiers as rounds bounce right off the ground in front of them, fly right over them. But with the Russians, we only heard, I think, 3 shots come at them. And they fired a few bursts, and that was it. So it doesn't appear to be an incredibly intense battle, if it is even a battle that we're watching here. But moving on to the Ukrainian clips, we can see some interesting things unfold. For example, the IDAR attacking the Russian lines with some M113s. Oh, that's copyrighted. Oh my god.
Very copyrighted.
When you see the M113s racing across the field in somewhat of a wide formation, especially compared to the Russians who usually move in a line. When you see one armored personnel carrier moving from right to left, it appears that it's deploying smoke, as the little M113s continue to race across the field, the little boxes just shooting across. We can now see them backing up a little bit. We can see some Ukrainian soldiers have disembarked and are moving through the fields in front of the M113s. We don't know if the M113s are providing cover, although all of them do have a 50 caliber machine gun equipped usually. We now see the Ukrainian infantry moving forward in a wide formation with a decent amount of spacing, except for the 2 guys right here in the middle, as they now move up towards the tree line, supported by the APCs. Pretty neat to see, and I gotta say, this was a very organized attack. They used the APCs to support the infantry, and then the infantry moved on in to engage the Russians in a close-on fight. So very good to see, and it's great to know that the Ukrainian IDAR unit is continuing to push the Russians and fight in the area. We're now going to be moving on to our last clip that we saw from Kolomna, where we saw some Humvees racing down a somewhat muddy road. And so here's the clip. You see a Ukrainian soldier, though, sitting by a mangled mess. Must be a Russian vehicle. And now we can see a Humvee passing by. And it's followed by another. Oh, bless you. Goodness. We see a third one passing by. And we see a fourth one as well. This one's got some squeaky brakes, though. It's got those, you know, those good brakes, Matthew.
Yeah, to say the least.
But anyway, I gotta say this. I know that the Humvee isn't the best in terms of armor protection. In fact, it's incredibly vulnerable. But these things look cool. You've got to admit. If anything, they got the cool factor going for them.
True. I think so.
I mean, that's true, 100%. It's great to see that they got Humvees in the area. Great to know that the Americans continue to provide them with support, and that we still see that support on the front lines to this day. And so that we're moving on from the Kolomna area. Sadly, no frontline movements to speak of except for the one up in the area of Chernopopivka. But with that, we're now moving on down into the area of Bakhmut. And the front line, interestingly enough, has not moved an inch from the past 24 hours. So we'll go to the first. We go to the second. And wait a minute, correction. It has moved a small amount. It appears that the Russians were able to move up the side of this lake. And they were also able to take how many city blocks? Let me check. They were able to take 1 city block and also move up to the Bakhmut River that runs through the middle of Bakhmut. So some very small movements, but beyond that, they have not been able to compromise the Ukrainians in the center of the city, and it appears that they still hold that area. So with that, we're now going to start moving into the clip, starting up here near that lake, where we saw a Ukrainian Su-25 flying over. And the numbers are fluctuating, Matthew. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's going in between hundreds right now, so lag must still be happening. But we can see the
Oh yeah, it's still going on.
We can see the Su-25s out there popping off their flares as they fly around in a little circle. And look at him go. We now see him flying right over the infantry. Man, that's pretty cool. And it's gone as soon as they saw it. We now see the second one also making its turn. And getting on out of there. It's always great to know that the Ukrainians on the ground can expect air support in any given moment, at any given time, and no matter how dangerous the situation is in the skies, the Ukrainian Air Force will be there. With that, we're now moving on into our next clip in the Bakhmut area, near Yahidne, where we saw Russian forces retreating after an assault. Let me see if it has music. It has that RoboCop type
Got that
beat.
nice techno music in it.
And Dirk said, Sam Elliott's bringing out the botch, and I've got to tell you something. You ever wanted to sit down and find yourself the right kind of entertainment channel? Well, you've just come to the right place. Get your news and your entertainment all in one spot. Watch these Russians fire their guns. Watch them get hit by the biggest guns in the world. Guts, Glory, Ram. We're not sponsored by Ram, by the way, just letting y'all know. But when you see the squad here, they're freaking out. They're like, oh, bleed, that was getting close, run. So they're starting to run away. The artillery is inching in a little closer now to that squad, and they are probably panicking because the shrapnel is whizzing right over their heads. And when you see them down here trying to figure out, what do we do, bleed? I think we leave. I think we crawl out, bleed. The artillery is still landing on them. It looks like they're trying to make some progress out there, but the artillery is not letting up at all. They've now made quite some ground. They are moving down that tree line. They are certainly scooting. The artillery is still slamming on them. Quite heavily. Quite thickly. We see them still running down the path. Well, you see some Russians hanging out right here. It looks like they've decided not to run. This guy here, he's got a very red glove. Like, that's not even blood. That was literally a glove. That was the reddest glove I've ever seen. Oh, bleed, you're bleeding. No, that's my glove, bleed. That's just my glove.
Bad color to pick on a battlefield.
Yeah, very bad color, and it just gives them away. We now see a couple of guys just laying on the path, and we can see one Russian run up, and he literally just bends over the guy, and he's like, "Are you okay down there?" And he's like, "No, bleed. I have shrapnel." Look at him! Look at him! He's literally like, he's got his hands on his knees. He's just bent over a little. He's like, "So, what did we learn today?" We now see a couple.
He's literally looking like he's taunting them or something.
He's like, nah, guess who's got their knees? And the guy's like, screw you, man. We can see a couple of guys way down the path. See a couple of guys laying out having some naps. I gotta say, the Russians picked the weirdest places to have a nap in the park. When you see them dragging off a couple of guys.
What, they have them on a tarp?
I think. Man,
Dang,
that's brutal.
Like,
that's kind of hardcore, honestly.
Wholesale Russians.
Man, why in the hell does that remind me of, like, French trappers in the 18th century coming out of the Upper Canada area, like Arcadia, and they're like, men, I got my flowers, For some reason, that reminds me, like, they got themselves some beaver. They're dragging out some beaver pelts right there. But with that, that's the end of the clip, and pretty interesting to see. Now moving on into the center of Bakhmut, we saw the light shining in on the city today in an interesting little bit of cloud cover. That light right there is literally shining right into the direct center of Bakhmut, with Russian forces surrounding it every single side. You know, of course, some would say this is a sign. I'm not going to go that far, but it is pretty coincidental to see that the only break in the sky where there's light coming through would be right over the center of Bakhmut, which is still controlled by Ukrainian forces. And so with that, I just wanted to show you that picture. I just thought it was cool. Also, everyone's saying Acadia. Oops, sorry, y'all. I think I said Arcadia. That's actually, like, I think a giant arcade, like, complex, but it's Acadia. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. Oh, sorry. let me whip out, like, a normal Twitter person now. The apology. The celebrity ship has been getting to me. I've really been losing it, and I'm so sorry, everyone. It's Acadia. I just don't know what's making me do this. I'm just kidding. Anyways, we're moving on.
What, are you trying to go on a privacy tour or something?
You know, I'm about to turn into some folks that keep on talking about privacy, but they never really want the privacy. But anyways, we're now going to be moving on from Bakhmut and down into the south near Opitne, where we saw the Fighting 93rd holding their positions in pictures. We can see right here an AGS pointing out a window, and this guy looks like he's ready to grease a Russian if he ever happens to run across one. The second picture, we can see a spotter right here with a pair of binos. It looks like he's only using one lens of the binocular, though. Interesting. In the next picture, we can also see the town of Bakhmut in front of them, completely ripped apart, burning, and most of the buildings destroyed. And in the final picture, we can see another destroyed building from the inside with all the windows blown out. And most of the roof tiles, excuse me, are blown out as well. I drink a massive amount of coffee, y'all. I don't know why I yawned right there. Apologies. So with that, that's the end of that little bit of news on the Fighting 93rd. But once again, great to know that they're in the area and holding the line. Because if anyone could do it, it is the 93rd. We're now moving on down into the southern flank, and where we saw the Belarusian volunteers fighting for Ukraine. And this right here, if you could call anything a hit and run, this was literally a hit and run. So let's watch it. We see them racing forward. We hear them firing the gun off the top of the vehicle, hopping out with an AT weapon, setting it up a little. Aiming it, firing it, getting back in the armored car. Oh, actually, it looks like a Humvee, kind of. So getting back in the Humvee, backing out immediately, firing the machine gun a little bit more, backing on up down the road. I always love, Matthew, how we can give, like, the most vague description of something or someone, and everyone just kind of guesses who it is. Like, I was sitting there looking at the live chat, I was like, wow, they actually got that one right. That could have been anyone in Hollywood, really. But when you see them still firing...
Oh, they know this one because it became popular, like, today because of a South Park episode, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's... We want privacy. We want privacy.
Yeah.
But I think you've seen it, have you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's what made me think about it.
In my new book. Wah. I love that part. But anyways, you see them driving off now, and that was literally a hit and run if we've ever seen one.
Oh, nice.
Dang, they're upgrading the
That's a hell of
outro every time we see it. Someone out there, Matthew, is fervently taking notes.
Yes, probably so.
But anyways, that's the end of the clip. Once again, nice to see the Belarusian volunteers in the area of Bakhmut making sure to lay down the fire on the Russians, even in hit and runs like that. We're now going to be moving on to the last clip of news we got from Bakhmut, where we also saw the Ukrainians firing off of Karl Gustav, kind of like a indirect artillery fire. This was from the 28th Brigade, by the way, so here's the clip. When you hear the music, sadly that means we have to mute it. When you see them aiming the Karl Gustav high and firing it, I think. Yeah, so he's moving over to reload the Karl Gustav now. Puts the Karl Gustav now, he swivels the thing, so that way he can reload it. The back of the Karl Gustav swivels, which is really interesting. And it appears that he's now reloaded. He's now moving out of the way. Another guy's come over to reload his Karl Gustav. And they're now going to aim this thing into the sky, and bop, he fired it. And now he goes to get some more ammo. Or he just walks off into the woods a little bit, and then turns around to go get more ammo. Putting down his Karl Gustav right there, with all the ammunition literally just falling out, out of the tarp. They're now getting ready to get back in the truck, it seems, after they fired off their last little bits of Karl Gustav. And slow mode is off. Chat away, everyone. Chat away. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. You know, Matthew, when you work in an office building, firing Karl Gustav takes a totally new meaning.
Wow. It took me like a split second to like catch on to that one, but good one.
Thank you. I try my best to make the jokes as cringe as possible so that way we can hear about it about a week from now. So anyways, at that, we're now going to be moving on from Bakhmut and the Southern Front. Once again, great to see that the Ukrainians are holding the line as best as they can there, and we don't really know what their plans are for the future, although it appears that they will most likely be withdrawing if the situation becomes worse. We're now going to be moving on down into the Donetsk area, where we have not seen any frontline action, but we did see some interesting clips. For example, some Humvees on the move in the Donetsk region. Today's been a really Humvee day. There's Humvees everywhere.
You know what?
What?
Every time I see Humvees and I don't see an MRAP, I just wonder to myself, like, damn, son, where'd they find this?
and now Matthew, to read
There you go, Jay Bagwell. He requested it. I had to do it.
And now Matthew, to read you a quote from none other than James Kavanaugh. I wonder sometimes if Enforcer is being held hostage. Who could actually laugh at some of these jokes? He actually said that about you, laughing at my jokes. We have fun here. But still, damn, son, where'd you find this? Walk with your boys. We make it look easy. But anyways, I hope that was satisfying, Jay. And also,
I had to top off the cringe jokes with my own cringe joke in great style.
That's it. I'm unsubscribing. That's it. Anyways, when you see the Humvees driving off on their way to do business. And also, we see some sappers here with their mine detectors trying to find anything magnetic under the ground. Or they might just be trying to find some shiny coins, one or the other. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little clip. Once again, very nice to see. And on into the area.
Jay put in a $10 super chat to say bravo. Thank you.
But anyways, moving on down into the area of Marinka, we also saw a Ukrainian Shilka in service. I gotta tell you, this ground, man, call this stuff Miracle Grow, because this crap looks like Miracle Grow soil with how churned up and, like, dark it is. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you know, like the little soil you get in bags and it's got, like, the white nodules in it. It looks like that. Also, we gotta mute that.
Oh, yeah.
And here comes the Shilka. Dude, that driver's port, man, is a literal front door of a house. Like, you open up that thing, you're just exposing your whole body to the open air.
Why does it kind of look like CGI when it turns? It's like fake looking.
I don't really know how to explain that, but this thing is real. It is a Shilka, after all.
Oh my God.
He didn't like the cameraman much. I'm just playing. He did that in good fun, in jest. Dude, that thing's drifting.
Man, I hope that track doesn't pop off. That's going to be a pain.
They're going to be like, Blitz! The track popped off. But with that, that's the end of that little clip right there. And once again, fairly neat to see that they were able to drift that Shilka in that mud. And also, Shilkas are kind of neat. I mean, they're kind of dated. Well, they're kind of old now, but they're still pretty neat. So, not that bad. So with that, we're now moving on from that little clip of a Shilka and on out of Donetsk and down into the Volodar area, because in Volodar, we saw, once again, the Ukrainians defending the area. Of course, courtesy to Radio Free Europe for giving us this additional clip from the Volodar area today. Ukrainian troops on the Donetsk front face unrelenting Russian attacks. Moscow is pouring infantry into the area, and we can see some of them sleeping. But Ukrainian forces say they're holding their positions while Russians suffer steady losses. That's Volodar we're looking at. It's one of the hottest spots on the front line. Russian troops are trying to attack almost every day, coming in with armored vehicles and infantry. The nearby village of Pavlivka is seeing heavy fighting from units on both sides. We see the Ukrainians trying to negotiate the mud right here. The enemy is trying to take this position as a foothold for further attacks on Volodar. The Ukrainian 68th Brigade has been targeted by a Russian tank and troops. The enemy is holding a position in front of us. They try to attack every other day. They fail and they suffer losses.
Намагається штурмувати позиції. Звісно, йому це не вдається. Зазнає втрат.
We now see them dropping F-1 bomblets onto the Russian forces hiding amongst the APCs. There's a forest strip 800 meters ahead, and there's an observation post there as well. There are about 150 bodies of the enemy in front of it. That's their losses during the attacks on just one small defensive position, and the attempts all failed. Unfortunately, we had losses too, but they are minimal compared to theirs.
В порівнянні з тим, які вони зазнають, то мінімальні втрати.
Oh crap, it's Susanna. Their 175th Marine Brigade suffered heavy losses.
Ну, скажем так, сильно пострадала. Как бы не буду говорить.
I won't use stronger language, but they took a heavy blow.
Сильно она получила и фактически перестала существовать.
Well, guess who else is out there taking a heavy blow? And basically stopped existing in their original format. They've been complemented with mobilized troops, and they are less trained.
Они пытаются прощупывать.
They are probing into our defense, but they suffer losses every time they attempt it.
И тоже несут потери.
The Ukrainian military suspects Russians may be gathering forces for more major attacks in the future. The region has seen waves of infantry assaults over the last 2 months. But no significant territory has changed hands. I don't know why the hell I was having such a problem saying that right there, but that's the end of the clip, courtesy to Radio Free Europe, and giving us a little bit of an idea of what the ongoing battle looks like according to Ukrainian soldiers at the front. And moving on into some clips, we can also see that they were able to take out a T-90 and a BMP outside of this dugout, and they just watched them burn in the distance. Oh, that's got music. It is copyrighted. But you can see the BMP and the T-90 burning out there, and it looks like these will not be joining Putin for the May 9th parade this year. Dang, those things are roasting, man.
Yeah, seriously, they're burning tough.
Man, they're burning so bright.
I was trying to go somewhere with that, but it totally left my mind.
Honestly, I'm starting to run out of jokes because we've watched so many Russian tanks catch on fire and burn. There's not really any more jokes I can come up with about burning stuff. So, yeah, I mean, like, they're burning. You know, the Russians are getting warm. They're having a campfire or something. But it was very nice to see that they were able...
Quickly Google's fire jokes in Google.
wait, hang on. Hang on, I got this. Fire jokes. We flame to please.
That's a good.
Fire away. And people about to be going, this is cringe. It is. That's the point. So with that, we're now moving on from that little clip in Volodar and on to our next one near Mikilske, where we saw some Russian soldiers getting hit. When you see the bomblet falling, when you see a BMP-1 right out there, when you see some Russian soldiers right here. Oh no. Dude, why in the world they all run into each other like the Three Stooges? What the hell? They were having a little bit of trouble over
I don't even know what was going on with that one.
Me either. I have no idea. It didn't even look like it injured them significantly because none of them fell over. But they did turn into the Three Stooges immediately. Get these guys on Russian TV, because if they can do the Three Stooges properly, that means they can be on Volodymyr Solovyev's show. So that's the end of that clip right there. And we're now going to be moving on out of Volodar, but that's what the current battle looks like today. Once again, no ground has changed hands. However, sadly, we do have to go to Zaporizhia and continue on a bit of a sadder note. Of course, this war has not come without losses, and the Ukrainian citizenry are one of those groups that take the losses the heaviest. The Russians continuously attack Ukrainian residential areas without end, and today we're able to strike a Khrushchevka block with a missile. It appears to have caused some decent damage, and from what we know, about 5 people were killed. You see right here them evacuating an older woman from the rubble. In the next picture, we can see the damage that was caused to the building. You can see that the entire center of the building has been completely destroyed, and the rest that remain caved in on it. In the next picture, we can also see in the daytime the rescue operations still continue as they try and find out where people are inside of this rubble and the wreckage. We can see that they were able to get another woman out of the rubble. We see the search efforts still continuing as they try and make sure to get into the building and get as many people out as they can. And once again, another unsolicited act of Russian terror. They once again got another woman out. In that picture, we can see a Ukrainian firefighter in the area, making sure to try and help out as best they can. And that's the end of all of these clips right here. Once again, incredibly unfortunate to hear. And they, in this clip, they got 2 dead civilians from under the rubble. But the last time I checked before we went live, that number had risen to 5. We're now going to be moving into our next clip, where we also saw a video of the building showing the damage up close. that's the end of the clip. And of course, another act of Russian terror, and hopefully the Russians that committed this attack will be held accountable in one form or another, either in the court or on the battlefield. We're now going to be moving on out of this bit of news, this very unfortunate news, once again showing that unfortunate Ukrainian citizens have lost their lives. And we're now going to be moving on up to Kyiv, because with that, we have actually rounded out all of our news from around the world today, including Ukraine. And so with that, and without further ado, here is the address from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 372 of the war.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Короткий звіт про сьогоднішній день. Щойно говорив з президентом Бразилії. Корисна розмова. Поновлюємо контакти між нашими державами на найвищому рівні. Я поінформував про атаки Росії проти наших людей, про вбивства дітей, про удари по нашій цивільній інфраструктурі. Подякував Бразилії за підтримку нашої резолюції про мир і територіальну цілісність для України. Обговорили дипломатичні зусилля, які здатні зупинити російську агресію і повернути спокій нашій країні, регіону та усьому світу. Зокрема, міжнародні зусилля для реалізації нашої формули миру. Сьогодні говорив із президентом Швейцарії. Це перша наша розмова з новим президентом. Подякував за пакет підтримки для України, для наших людей. Обговорили подальшу двосторонню співпрацю і можливу взаємодію на міжнародних майданчиках. Почув, що Швейцарія зацікавлена у реалізації нашої формули миру. Це дуже добрий сигнал. Провів засідання ставки суто по фронтовій і безпековій ситуації. Загальну доповідь зробив головнокомандувач, була доповідь розвідки, детально з конкретних бойових напрямків від командувачів угруповань наших військ. Осув Хортиця, ключова увага Бахмуту, Осув Таврія, обговорили Донецький, Запорізький напрямки. Була детальна доповідь генерала Тарнавського. На сьогоднішній звірячий російський ракетний обстріл Запоріжжя буде наша відповідь як військова, так і юридична. Окупант неминуче відчуватиме нашу силу. Силу справедливості в усіх сенсах слова. Я хочу подякувати усім нашим рятувальникам, які від ночі розбирають завали будинку, під'їзд якого був зруйнований ракетою. Вдалося врятувати 11 людей, більше 70 отримали допомогу. У списку загиблих на цей час 2 людей. Мої співчуття рідним. Осув Одеса. Доповідь щодо ситуації по південному напрямку, зокрема по тому, що стосується Херсона і Херсонщини. Звичайно, не залишаємо без уваги північ нашої держави, кордон. Командувачі прекрасно розуміють, що їхнє завдання – робити все, щоб подавляти вогонь терористів. І постійно працюємо з партнерами над тим, щоб далекобійність наших можливостей зростала. Підписав сьогодні кілька указів щодо нагородження наших воїнів. Загалом за цей день 847 захисників і захисниць відзначені державними нагородами. Бійці наших механізованих бригад, танкісти, артилеристи, морпіхи, розвідники, воїни повітряних сил, сил спеціальних операцій, тероборони, нацгвардійці, Національної поліції, прикордонники, працівники ДБР і ДСНС. На сьогодні число наших захисників і захисниць, чия хоробрість і результативність були відзначені державними нагородами, вже вище 40 тисяч. Дякую усім, хто захищає нашу державу. Дякую всім, хто щодобово привчає Росію до думки, що Україну не зламати. Ми вистоїмо, ми переможемо і притягнемо до відповідальності усіх російських терористів. Слава нашим воїнам, слава Україні!
So with that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky, and that wraps up our day 372 news summary, and of course, our news as well. I thank you all so much once again for watching the news. We're about to be moving on into our question segment, where we're going to be addressing all of the super chats that have been sent in to help this channel to keep on running, and also all of the live chats that we can as well. But before we do, I have to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching this channel and helping us to keep this news running. Of course, without y'all's likes, which have gotten up to 1,951 likes, and without all of y'all viewing this and encouraging us and supporting us in this, it wouldn't be possible. We always like to ensure that our news is the best there is, and luckily, we were able to clear up today that the news was correct. The bridge is down. We were a little incorrect, though, that both spans were down. One span still stands, but it appears that it has significant damage on it, and both rail lines have been closed across the bridge, meaning that it is, at this point, entirely unusable. So, good to know that we cleared that up. Good to know that we are still covering the news as accurately as possible, because that's what we do. You know, we actually put effort into this, and I try and make sure to work a lot in advance to make sure our news is as accurate as possible, and I hope that today's news met that mark. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and make sure to comment. And also, good night to BitBit, because he said it's time to sleep. And it is time for some of y'all to sleep. And so have a good rest, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time when we cover the next 24 hours of the war. And so with that, we're now going to be moving into addressing our polls. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and for the final question segment, we have 4 polls to address. And the very first one says, Ukrainian intel says that Russia will run out of weapons by the end of spring, and what are your thoughts? 64% said this is the reason for China's recent meetings with Russia and Belarus. 13% said unsure and undecided. 17% said it's probably just propaganda. And 6% said Russia will likely run out sooner. And if y'all follow the Twitter, which you should, shameless plug, y'all will see that I think it's probably the reason for the recent China meetings, especially with Belarus trying to supply weapons to Russia by proxy. But then again, it's still just speculation, and it may or may not be the case. But I'm going to go with the majority. And Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say you're totally right, Matthew, in joining this Twitter. I mean, like, I joined the Twitter. I'm actually running the Twitter, and this is a great Twitter. I've got to tell y'all, I mean, like, this is top-of-the-line stuff right here. It's got 2,191 followers. I don't know what we started with on the stream tonight, Matthew, but my phone has been blowing up over here with a little notification saying, like, right now, I'll give you a shout-out just in case you're watching the stream. GJ Anderson 30 is following us now, just literally right now.
Nice.
Very nice, very nice. And I've got to say, y'all should join our Twitter. We are putting up news updates over here as well, and doing a fairly good job at it. Matthew's been putting out pretty much all of them, which has been really cool. And also, it's mostly being covered in the news. Also, I like this one a lot because, you know, it's what we were talking about. I really love this one. The truth always prevails.
44 likes.
Where are the comments on this one? Let's look at the comments. Because, you know, we love reading
Watch them
reviews.
be like nasty.
Yeah. Let's go! 30 minutes. I just blew out everyone's eardrums. Sorry, I forgot. You were 100% correct last night. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, we were. You know, we actually like to get credit for when we cover the news first. Instead of, you know, like when the Crimean Bridge literally blew up in October. We were the first one in the world to cover it because it literally happened while we were live. And so we stopped everything and said it blew up. You know, imagine back then if everyone said that was clickbait. No one else is reporting on it. Yeah, because we actually put in effort, unlike Fox or CNN or any other random YouTuber that just goes around and looks at stuff. You know, we actually put in effort in finding things the best we can and reporting on them when we can. And then DE expats, it looks like more additional demolition should be conducted soon. I would agree with that.
I agree completely.
And also, we've got a fairly interesting from Slow Nukem describing the bridge's, I guess you say, structural integrity from the fire. And so, gotta say, pretty nice. Also, let's look at more replies. Let's see.
Oh, we got a bot.
We got a bot! It's Mike Swintal! Oh, man!
I like how it hit his reply because he's automatically deemed by Twitter as a bot.
Yeah, look at that. And also, you will be proven a liar when you look at the titles of your videos on YouTube and realize you were BSing them about what is happening in the war. Well, you know, I don't think we were BSing about the bridge being out because if a train can't ride over it, that bridge is out of action. So
cry, bot. Cry.
Yeah, that bot's just going to have to cry a little about it. So with that, yeah, it's a great Twitter. Make sure to go join it. How many new members do we have? Oh, wow. Look at that. We've got like another 20 of them.
2,200. And just to think, yesterday it was like, I think, like 1,800 or 1,500.
Yeah, something like that. It was way lower. And I got to thank you all for joining. I hope you all enjoy our little Twitter. And I've heard some of y'all say, oh, I don't get on Twitter, you know, because of this or that. I would recommend joining just so that way you can rep the Leaf Spring Army. Like, you know, we're not really into anything else. We're just here to be the Leaf Spring Army. So make sure to join us. and join the Lee Spring Army Expeditionary Force on Twitter because we're starting to spread. And hopefully we can spread across all the internet and be just about everywhere. So with that, also, Miss Deesa said, can't delete bots on Twitter, sadly. Well, you
can actually. I found out how to do that today.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you this. If we can, that's great. If we can't, who really cares? Because you can clearly tell they're bots. And we just delete them here so that way they don't cause fights. But if fights happen on Twitter, hey, that's what the Expeditionary Force is for. So I guess that just does its job. So anyways, with that, interesting here we can, because I thought we couldn't either. I was just like, look at that bot. He's crying, he's seething. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next poll. Well, actually, I didn't even address the poll. I just addressed the Twitter. Can you reread the poll?
Yes. Let me go back to it real quick. Let's see here. And this first poll said, Ukrainian intel says Russia will run out of weapons by the end of spring. And what are your thoughts?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't really know about that one because the end of spring is just like 2 months away. I don't know. I honestly think that, yeah, maybe not. I honestly, no, I don't think that's realistic. I'm trying to sit here and think about it. I'm like, how many weapons would they have? I mean, it depends on what category they're talking about. They may be running out of some stuff by the end of spring, but not everything. I mean, they're not going to be running out of AKs because they can make those right now, and they can keep making them until the war's over. So, with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and also, I see everybody saying that Starsky was promoted, and I did see that. He's Captain Starsky now. Did he just get promoted one rank, or was it like a pretty big jump?
I think he was a first lieutenant, if I remember correctly. So it was just like the next rank up. But still really cool to hear he got promoted.
Oh, nice.
Really impressive. So now he's Captain Starsky. I wish my last name sometimes was Crunch. So that way, whenever I entered the military, I could be called Captain Crunch. Hey. Oh, man. Someone's about to sit there and go, unsubscribe. Anyways. I always get a laugh out of that, Matthew, whenever I make a corny joke. I'm like, someone just sat there and was like, that's it. That's it. I'm leaving. But anyways, I hope we addressed that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next poll says Slovakia may offer MiG-29s to Ukraine, and France may offer Mirage jets to Ukraine also. And what are your thoughts? 87%, which is an overwhelming majority, said either works great, send them. 5% said, F-16s would be better. 3% said unsure and undecided. And 5% said send them, but not great solution. And I have to say that I did some research because I made a Twitter post about it. And the MiG-29 is almost on par with the F-16. I really don't know about Mirage jets, though. But the MiG-29s will be a good solution, but I would rather see Ukraine get an F-16. Just because I think it's slightly more agile. But Enforcer, what say you?
That MiG-29 is not comparable to an F-16. It's like 10 years behind.
I read some online posts from so-called experts that said they're pretty close, but the F-16 beats out the MiG-29 by a slight advantage.
Yeah, well, I mean, like let's check this out. How many MiG-29s has the F-16 shot down? Let's see, F-16 kills. So let's see here. The 154 engagements resulted in at least 210 confirmed kills. So let's go to F16.net and let's see if they have a breakdown of what kills were on what aircraft. So, dang, this is a long article. Oh my god.
Golly.
Note that the 72 F16 kills represent... Wait, hang on. Air battles have occurred. The Fighting Falcon has accumulated 72 air-to-air kills with no air-to-air losses except for one fratricide lost by the Pakistani Air Force when an AIM-9L switched lock onto a wingman. I think it's the most unfortunate way to shoot something down. Engagements and kills were recorded throughout more than 33,000 worldwide air-to-air and air-to-ground combat sorties. For Western Fighter on the overall, 154 engagements resulted. Note that the 72 F-16 kills represent 47% of that number. Let's see here. Wow, dang, there was actually a decent amount of gun kills. 23 kills with the gun. Like the M61 20mm Gatling gun in the F-16 accounted for 23 of those kills. That's actually
Wow.
pretty high, actually. A lot higher than I thought it would be. They got 45 kills from AIM 7s. They got from F-15, F-8. Wait a minute, this seems like a whole entire coalition kind of thing, but I want F-16 numbers.
I see some folks saying that the MiG and the F-16 are kind of comparable, but the MiG breaks down a lot and requires a lot more fixing.
I'll say they're kind of comparable. They're kind of in the same area as in the dogfighting aircraft. The Su-27s are like an air superiority fighter. The MiG-29s are more so a dogfighter in a way. Well, dogfighter in a modern sense doesn't really mean that anymore, but kind of a dogfighter in a way, if you want to call them that. But that's not correct at all. Someone will probably come up with the correct term in a second. But where the hell's the kill list? Where's the kill list? Because how many... Well, let's just type in how many F-16s have MiG-29s killed. Let's see. The F-16. Let's see here.
That was one of the sources I read for my information.
Say what?
That was one of the sources I read for my information.
Really?
Yep.
Let's see. The combat statistics for all aircraft that are currently in use.
Might have to go to Quora next.
Let's see. Oh, hell, damn, man. I mean, there's nothing around. Good God, man. I can't find nothing.
Could they like put the data in a more like readable format?
Let's see. I'm looking at the live chat. None of y'all have an answer either. I'm trying to find one. But can't find one, sadly. Also, the MiG-29 is not that big. I know it's a twin-engine jet fighter, but it isn't that big, actually. It's very comparable to the size of an F-16. It's just a little chunkier. But sadly, I can't find the numbers. I know this, though. F-16s have not been shot down in a dogfight. MiG-29s, however, have by the U.S. in the Gulf War. So, with that in mind, I would say that the F-16 is better. For that reason. You know, and of course you can go into maybe the Iraqis weren't as well trained, but you also have to remember that when the Gulf War began, the Iraqis had just come out of the Iran-Iraq War, where their military got incredibly experienced and incredibly battle-hardened, both in the sky and in the ground, although they grounded a lot of their Air Force because the U.S.-made F-14s were blowing Iraqi aircraft out of the sky at the beginning of the war, and no one really knew how, because it was the first time that, I guess you could say Beyond Horizon missiles were being used, and so they had no idea why their aircraft were blowing up. They actually thought it was a technical issue with their planes that were causing them to blow up. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Maybe we can find a little bit of information here. Nope. Once again, no information. So with that, we're on to the next one. And I thank y'all once again for having that poll, but I still think that while it's great that the Slovakians will be giving over MiG-29s potentially in the future, I still think an F-16 would be better. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one says, reports say that the U.S. will announce another Ukraine military aid package tomorrow, and what are your thoughts? 35%, which is the most popular option, says it will be a huge package. 14% said unsure, 19% said it will be a decent amount, and 32% said it will be a routine aid package. And from the rumors I've heard circulating around, it sounds like it's going to be more routine with maybe a couple little extras in there that Ukraine might get a kick out of. But I'm going to go with the 32% that said it's going to be routine. But Enforcer, what say you?
I feel it's probably going to be routine. It's probably not going to be anything massive. So I would also have to agree. I think it probably will be a routine package. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And we're on to the next one.
And the next one says, Secretary of State Blinken met briefly with Russia's Lavrov today at the G20 summit. And what are your thoughts? 29% said he should not have met with Lavrov. 21% said unsure, undecided, and indifferent. 25% said it was a good attempt to talk. And 25% said good, more diplomacy is better. Now, this is a almost equally distributed poll, which we don't see very often. I'm going to have to lean toward he should not have met with Lavrov because Russia has not indicated that they're going to give in any way whatsoever. And clearly from the talk, nothing positive or effective came out of that. So it seems to be a waste. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say the same thing. They shouldn't have met with Lavrov. They're clearly not open to any kind of diplomatic channels or diplomatic options in this war right now. So I would say it was completely pointless to meet with them at all because there's nothing going to be gained from it or achieved by it. So with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And guess what? That was our last poll. So we're
What?
moving on to our super
No.
chat questions. Yes, it was. It was our last one. That was
Liar.
No, but the first super chat we're going to address is from Cindy Mitchell, who puts in a very nice and generous $40 donation. And thank you so much, Cindy. She says, do you boys ever check out TYP Rock Raccoon? I think you should give. I think you should and give the LSA feedback ASAP. Today's interview. P.S. Got my orange Igor. Nice.
And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I will make sure to try and check them out. What's their name again?
It is TYP Rock Raccoon. Let me send that to you.
How do you spell that last part?
Rachon.
Is it a band?
I don't know.
TYP Rock Raccoon?
Yes.
Not seeing him on YouTube. So let me go over here. Let me type this in here.
Some folks are saying TVP.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, now I see it. So let me check this out real quick. Let's see here. You know all the latest news. Poland's first English language channel. Oh yikes! We're gonna get copyrighted if we play this. I would play a little bit of it, but their description is incredibly well worded. So that is scaring me. So sadly, I can't like check it out on stream because of copyright reasons. But I do thank you for the support and letting us know about it because it does look like it's an interesting production in Poland, and we'll make sure to give it a look and see what they're saying. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment at least the best we can. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, Cindy, and also getting your orange Igor. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to, let's see here, Hal Rose, who puts in a 20. And says, Enforcer, it's worth a 20 just to hear Bayraktar as an integral part of your intro. That song is forging an unbreakable bond with Turkey. Pick a question from the live chat, please.
And thank you so much once again for the support. And I gotta tell you, Turkey is a pretty interesting country, a really interesting history, really interesting culture, and also really interesting military technologies that are starting to be produced there as well, kind of in a smaller sense in the broad picture. But I have to say, they are pretty cool. And the Bayraktar song is also pretty neat as well. I'd have to say, I'd have to be honest with you, Matthew. It's a good song. It's a bop.
It is a bop.
Bayraktar. I don't like how the first one was copyrighted though. Like that kind of still like I'm like, man, why? Why, man? It was a bop, and we got to play it here, and then we didn't get to play it because they started copyrighting it. But still, moving on from that small gripe, it is a great song, and I thank you so much for the support and helping us to keep on playing that song and helping this channel to keep on running. Because without viewers like you, it wouldn't be possible. Of course, and let me say this real quick. I want to clarify this real quick. Support helps us to keep this thing running. But we're gonna run this thing every single day, no matter the support, because at the end of the day, it's about helping out Ukrainians. It's about covering the news and letting y'all be informed. But of course, the support does count because it does help us to keep alive behind the scenes. We thank y'all so much for keeping that in mind and also helping for us to keep on being here. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one we have is a $20 super chat from none other than Craig Platel. And thank you very much, Craig, for the support. And he says, Russia shelling Ukraine won't stop them joining NATO. Article 10 has no restrictions. A 1995 study on expansion and 1997 membership action plan states they will be willing to settle territorial disputes peacefully.
Interesting. I thank you for the support and sharing that with us. But let's see. Article 10. Let's pull up NATO Article 10. And let's see what it says. Is this Article 10? No, it doesn't look like that's Article 10. That looks like it's describing Article 10. Official text of the North Atlantic Treaty. Time to go down to Article 10. Why the hell is the... You know what's interesting to me? Why in the world are most terms and conditions on phones so much longer than an entire charter for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? You know, I was just thinking about
Good question.
that. But let's go down to Article 10. The parties may, by unanimous agreement, invite any other European state in a position to further the principles of this treaty and to contribute to the security of the North Atlantic area to accede to this treaty. Any state so invited may become a party to the treaty by depositing its instruments of accession with the government of the United States of America. The government of the United States of America will inform each of the parties of the deposit of each such instrument of accession. That's always funny whenever you read these articles, because you can clearly tell who's the runner of NATO by who you're giving this stuff to. You know, it's not like you give a copy to the United States, Britain, and France. It's just like give it to America, and America will fax it out to everyone else. But interesting to see that. Let's see, the parties shall be represented. The council shall be so organized as to meet promptly at any time. The council shall set up subsidiary bodies. Let's see, Article 11. Treaty shall be ratified. Provisions carried out by the parties in accordance with their respective constitutional process. The instruments of ratification shall be deposited as soon as possible to the government of the United States of America, which will notify all the other signatories of each deposit. Let's see, the ratifications of the majority of the signatories, including the ratifications of Belgium, Canada, France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and the United States, have been deposited and shall come into effect with respect to other states on the date of the deposit of their ratifications. I'm having to make sure to read the other articles around it because Article 4 and 5 kind of work with each other. And so I'm trying to make sure that there isn't an article surrounding 10 that doesn't have anything to do with it. So it appears that you are correct. There are no stipulations saying that you cannot be at war and join NATO. It's just that in the modern world, we've heard NATO countries and the United States saying Ukraine cannot join right now because they're in a war, and you cannot join NATO while being in a war. But it appears that in the treaty, there is nothing saying that. Well, in the charter, there's nothing saying that. So you are correct. There is nothing stopping Ukraine from joining NATO tomorrow, at least from what we're reading in the article. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for the support, Craig, and helping this channel to keep on running. You are an old guard on this channel, for certain. You have been around for literally ever. And if it wasn't for folks like you supporting this channel through and through for over a year now, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping us to keep doing this and helping us to do this well into the future. And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for clarifying that for us and also leading us to read the charter. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Jim Smith. And thank you very much, Jim, for that support. He says, sorry, I don't have much. Love you guys, and can I please get a yeehaw?
Yeah! And thank you so much for the support, Jim. And I have to tell you this, Jim. I hate to hear when people say it's not much. That $10 super chat is a lot to us, and we thank you for supporting this channel because any amount helps us to keep this thing rolling behind the scenes. It helps us to get from Sunday to Sunday. It helps us to go from one great thing to another. It helps us to keep covering this news every single day, and any amount of support is a massive amount of support. I never want anyone to feel on this channel that they have to support us. We never beg for support. It is entirely up to y'all whether y'all want to support this channel or not. And I also never want anyone to feel like their support is insignificant. $1 makes a big difference. $2 makes a big difference. $500 super chats make a difference. We thank anyone who finds it worthwhile at all to support this channel, and that is not small to us, Jim. And I've got to thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running, and thank you for being a part of the Lee Spring Army. And also to clarify that, because we always say this, you do not have to send in a super chat to be a part of the Lee Spring Army. You just have to want to be a part of the Lee Spring Army to be a part of it. And make sure to let people know wherever you go you're part of the Lee Spring Army, kind of like NAFO. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Jim. I hope that does address that fairly well, and your support means a lot to us and helps us to keep this thing running. Never think it's small, and never think that you are a lesser member of the Lee Spring Army. You're on the level of everyone else, and thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And did he want a live chat, Matthew?
And actually, he did not. He didn't ask for one.
Oh, well, with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well, and we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. And also, I saw Philip Fix say, when did you get your mic fixed to pick up those yeehaws?
Yeah, it picked it up this time.
Yeah, I've done absolutely nothing. It literally just fixed itself, which, like, I don't know what's up with Discord, but apparently it got worked out, so that's a good thing. He said it's perfect. Oh, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad it's coming through clearly.
Thank you. Thank
But
you very
up
much.
next, yes, yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Marion Deemer, who says, "May you both be successful in your future as lawyers. You rock." And thank you, Marion.
And thank you, Marianne, for the support. We will be good attorneys, hopefully, in the future. Not in law school yet. We will be going to law school in the fall. We've both been accepted. So that's really good, and that's great. And so we're on the track to get there. I cannot wait to get there. I've been told by some it'll be incredibly difficult. I've been told by others it'll be a cakewalk. And if I have been doing this for an entire year, on top of already going to college full time and pretty much burning myself out on a continuous basis and somehow keeping it going, I feel like law school will not be that difficult. So I hope that it is fairly easy. I hope it's as easy as I'm thinking it will be. And I can get through law school easy peasy and get out the other side and start practicing law for a short while and then get into politics. Because another thing that this has prepared me for is politics. Because, some people say, well, you don't really talk about political opinions. That's right, because that's for campaign trails. That's not really just for normal discussion, because that's just kind of something that came around the past few years. And, while it's, something that's on everyone's mind, I kind of find it obnoxious that everywhere I go now, I hear politics. It's like that is for a specific area. I don't know why the hell you're talking about politics in the middle of us watching, like, I don't know, a show, it's kind of annoying to me. But anyways, getting on past that, one other thing that this has prepared me for with politics is that we have gotten a lot of people who support us, and somehow we've gotten a small amount of people who hate us with a burning passion. So, we've gotten used to it. And also, I kind of get a laugh out of them sometimes because you can tell that they're just seething, Matthew, if you know what I mean. They're out there seething.
Yes.
Call them out. But with
Call them out.
Man, there's no way. Like, I've seen some seething. I've seen steaming. Whatever the hell that is over there, that's enough to run a ship across the Atlantic Ocean and win the blue ribbon. Like, that's something.
There's some jealous people in this world.
Oh, there is. Man, we're not going to get into it too much, but with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support and helping us to keep this thing rolling.
All right. And up next, we have a $15 super chat from Cindy Mitchell, who says, "Off to the good old hockey game in Van. Only a can would understand." Huh. I guess so. You can't hear cheering for the Leafs, and you know where to send it. Stir, Matt. And yes, I do. But Enforcer, what say you first?
I gotta thank you for the support. I don't know what can means. I don't know who's a can. Am I can bread?
Only a Canadian, I think is what you meant to say.
Oh, I was like, maybe it's a Canadian, but at the same time, like, I'll say that, and then they'll be like, no, it's can. It's from somewhere. So I got to thank you so much for the support. Very interesting here. I hope you have fun at the hockey game. Interesting enough, that's like Canada's kind of national sport. They're kind of like America that way. It's really weird because America's into American football and no one else around the world has that as their national sport. Canada's into hockey. Oddly enough, India's national sport is cricket. Like, who the hell plays cricket? Like, it was made in Britain, and not even the British play cricket as a national sport. But for some reason, the Indians do. That's kind of, kind of weird in a way. And then I forgot who else was the outlier. It's really just the United States, Canada, and India. And when you look at that compared to the rest of the world that plays European football, relative, it's weird. But, I guess if you grow up in Canada, hockey is your thing. If you grow up in America, American football is your thing. And if you grow up in India, cricket's your thing. I still don't understand how cricket works. Like, do you get how cricket works, Matthew? Because I've tried to watch it before, and I have no understanding of how the hell the rules really work with that.
I don't know how the rules work, but that's that sport where they grab the, like paddle and they smack the ball.
Yeah, like, they have these cricket bats right here.
Oh, yeah, I remember that from that movie, that animated one, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, fantastic Mr. Fox. I still don't understand how the sport works, though. Like, I'm completely lost with how cricket works. Also, oh yeah, Australia's into rugby. I forgot. Sorry, y'all. It's into rugby. They're another outlier out there in the world. But everyone else loves European football. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for support. And we know where to send it, Matthew. Straight to the live chat. And so with that, what do we got?
And the one going to the live chat goes to Storm Dragon, who says, "How long until the Russians get sick of Putin and cap his butt?" I like how straightforward that was.
Man, how long is it until they get tired of Putin and bust a cap in his ass? Let's see. I would say maybe, let's see. Let me think. You know,
Crystal ball it.
yeah, I hate to say it. You know, I'm not really a big fan of crystal balling. Everyone always asks me to crystal ball, though, and it puts me in a really bad spot because don't want to say it's because, you know, that's the thing you can get wrong the easiest is crystal balling. You know, not to go down that rabbit hole every time of explaining that. You'll probably have heard it a million times at this point, kind of like with me saying and with that, and so with that, and with that being said and stuff like that. But I don't really like crystal balling because it's almost always going to be wrong. And you get had if you don't answer the question because then people complain you didn't answer it. And then you get had when you're wrong because you will be wrong. But I would say probably by the next 5 years at least. I would put that window on it. Within the next 5 years, I feel like Putin will be out of power, or Russia will be fracturing to the point that his power will be insignificant compared to what it once was. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. I thank you so much once again for the support and also sponsoring that live chat as well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for helping us to keep this thing running.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from John Webster, who says Starsky got promoted to captain today. Let's all wish him congrats from the LSA.
Hey, and congratulations to Starsky for becoming a captain. I hope he enjoys eating pig nipples. He's talking about the last time it's on stream. And also, congratulations to Starsky for becoming a captain. If he watches the stream later on, that's quite an accomplishment. And I hope he enjoys the new rank and wears it with pride. What in the world does the rank of captain look like in the Ukrainian Armed Forces? Ukraine.
I wonder if Starsky, when he's talking about, you know, the pig nipples, was he talking about Vienna sausages?
You know, how the hell does that look like a pig nipple?
I don't know. It's like the only thing I can think that like comes close to a real food.
So this is the rank he's got on his opulent. That's what it'll look like right there. Not a bad looking rank. And I gotta say congratulations to him for sure, because that's quite an achievement to make the rank of captain. Now he's only got to make the rank of general. So pretty cool. Also, man, that general rank is dripped out. Look at that.
Nice, nice.
Man, impressive, I'd have to say. So with that, let me go pull that up. Are pig nipples Vienna sausages? Vienna sausages. Let me just type this in. Can of pig nipples.
Everybody got a good crack out of that. I mean, I can see where like somebody that didn't know about Vienna sausages might say something like that, but I mean, I don't know.
I can't actually find cans of pig nipples for sale anywhere, and I can't find where Vienna sausages are called pig nipples either. So I think Starsky's eating like some jank food out there, like that just came from like nowhere, because I can't find it anywhere. But with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. Congrats to Starsky once again, but sadly Starsky had to eat the pig nipples before he could get promoted. And honestly, when I heard that before, I was like, that is weird. Like, when he said that, I was like, you know, I asked him about weird things that had happened to him in the war. I was like, that is as weird as it could get. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for support, and I hope that addresses that fairly well.
And maybe Starsky will get more food now that he's a captain, or better food. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Joseph M. Sika, who says, last night, you guys were talking about a soldier is taught you must have 3-to-1 odds attacking. Marines are taught you must attack and win with 1-to-3 odds. Not bad. Hi, live chat, love. I know how the war will end. Putin, go sleepy.
Well, I thank you so much for the support, Joseph, and also welcome back. I will never forget that one night that happened. Like, I'll never forget that now, but I still thank you for the support, Joseph. And also, interesting to hear that a Marine needs 1-to-3 odds to attack. That is incredibly dangerous sounding, I've got to say, but it is the Marines after all, and the Marines can get it done. If no one can get it done, the Marines will get it done somehow. So, of course, Joseph, you are a Marine, and I got to ask you, could you get that done? I just butchered that. That came out as like something like Churchill would say. That is what we're going to try to. Could you get that done? I wonder if you could. I feel like you can. But still, not that bad. And also, hello to the live chat on behalf of Joseph. And I know how the war will end. Putin's death. Maybe. So with that, thank you so much once again, Joseph, for helping this channel to keep on running. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And also, very interesting to hear it. If that is true, I'm actually pretty surprised to hear that, because back in World War II, and throughout most modern wars, it's been said that the advantage in numbers that the military wants to have is a 3-to-1 advantage. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And I see everybody saying, including Trister one, he said, when you're from Georgia, you say Vienna. And when from anywhere else, you say Vienna. So what is it, Vienna or Vienna?
For us, it's Vienna. Like, I've said Vienna.
I say Vienna.
Yeah.
Like cousin to the hyena.
Yeah, it's a Vienna sausage. I don't know why everyone's calling it a Vienna sausage. Like that's a city, you know? Like, these things are too jank tasting to be Vienna sausages. They're Vienna sausages. Also, look at this interesting, like, canal thing they had going on here.
Wow.
Look at that.
Is that Vienna?
Oh, yeah, this is Vienna right here. This is the damn Vienna.
Have you ever been to Vienna? That's a nice place.
Man,
they make good sausage.
Man, we're clickbaiting the hell out of people. There's explosions near Moscow, and we're talking about Vienna. This is clickbait right here. Call them out. Call them out. Call them. And then Matthew, to top it all off, I'm gonna stick on that for days. You know, I'm gonna pump iron for 3 days. And anyways, oh wait a minute, the Rathausplatz. We got to see what the Rathausplatz. Wow, that is a nice rat house. Dang, man.
It's like the complete wrong name for these buildings. Rat house. It's like, call this the King's house. Jeez.
Man, this thing needs to be called Königshaus, King's house. Oh man, you know, it's funny. The Austrians speak German. You know, it's kind of interesting. You know, I'm trying to make a joke here. I don't know if it will come off well, so just keep in mind, everyone, it's a joke. It's kind of interesting that this is not a part of Germany. If you get the joke, if y'all catch the historic drift. But anyways. Very nice rat house. Look at this. Rat house, whatever. But, man, impressive. I think, Matthew, they ought to demolish this thing and build a parking lot here for a Walmart.
Oh, that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be great.
Commercialize the hell out of this place.
Oh, yeah, man. We got to make it to where you can't walk without walking over a burning hot parking lot where your soles of your shoes are melting off to get to a Walmart and then walk around.
Hey, but at least you get cheap Viennas.
Hey, that's true. Well, cheap Chinese Vieni. Why in the world did I say Vieni? I turned into a Russian, man. I said Vieni. Wait, the Berg Theater? Is this from the Burgermeister Meisterburger? No one's going to pick up on that.
That's a nice
joke.
theater. Jeez.
That is a nice one. But man, if you think this is nice, there are some French theaters in Paris that really blow this out of the water. But this is incredibly nice. Oh, they even got carriage rides out here. Where do you want to go, governor?
Dennis Wilson said rat means council. So what do you call the councilman? You call him rat man? Like, hey rat man, what y'all doing in the legislature these days?
Matthew, anywhere in Germany? There is a pothole in the road. Guess who we're going to call? Na rat man. Then you go to the rat house.
That makes Pack Rat the Pack Council.
Oh man, it's the Warsaw Pact, but in council form, it's the Pack Rat. Oh man, and also we know that it means town hall. That is something we do, that I know at least. It's just that I always make fun of the name because in English it sounds so silly, but still, it is the town hall. And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. I thank y'all so much for the support and also allowing us to have a quick little laugh about the Rathausplatz. And also, thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running and also talking about the Vienna sausages. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, a big shout out to William Jones for putting in a $10 donation, but sadly without a comment. But thank you, William, very much for that support and helping to keep us running. And the next one we have goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 10 and says, take a live chat question. And of course, CK, we will. And thank you also for your support. And that live chat question sponsored by CK Bold goes to Marion Deemert, who says, is it true that North Korea has troops on the border to Russia?
Yes, that is true. We do have troops on the border to Russia right now. We usually always do. So yes, that is correct actually, and I hope that addresses that question kind of in a short form, because the answer is just simply yes. I hate to always give short answers like that, but there's really not more that I can add. There is this town here though called Narva, which sounds like Nirvana, and I don't listen to the music from that band, but there is a house here called, well, a town here called Narva. Let's see what this place looks like. Well, I be dipped. They really helped us out with seeing what this town looks like. There's just nothing but trees here. Dude, it's Remy from Ratatouille. Hyper mode. Oh,
Anyone can cook.
Anyone.
Let him cook.
Wait, let him cook.
I don't know what that means, but I guess it's like one of those new day phrases, new age phrases.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that.
one of those stupid new memes that for some reason is funny for no reason. Wow, look at this mall, man. For some reason, this thing reminds me of like a 1970s mall. EBF.
I want to go to Fama.
This person is wearing a NASA shirt. You know they can't hate America. You know, because if anything, we've learned...
Maxima. It's you see that sign said Maxima that way.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good Nissan.
What kind of cars are here? Oh, they're all Volkswagen and Hyundai. Volkswagen. I gotta pull that up, man.
Car.
I gotta pull up that soundbite. Deep voice Volkswagen. Let me find that.
Or BMW. BMV.
Let's see here. Volkswagen. Dang, I can't find it. All right, well, whatever. I'm gonna have to give up on that. But still, I wish I could find it because the guy literally says Volkswagen. But still, pretty neat. And I hope that answered the question fairly well about American forces being on the Russian border, because they are almost at all times in NATO countries. And so with that, thank you once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And also, I was told by Mr. Me that you missed the part about North Korea has troops on the border to Russia.
Oh. Did I?
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. So let's go over to North Korea. Most likely. They're border guards, most likely, because they have a lot of forces on all sides of their border, both with China, Russia, and also South Korea, because they're trying to stop their citizens from fleeing. And so if they leave a border unprotected, chances are North Koreans will take that chance to try and flee. So to answer that, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that originally. I thought you were talking about American forces on the border. I don't know how I heard American out of North Korean, but yes, there are North Korean forces on the Russian border to stop North Korean citizens from fleeing the country. So with that, I hope that does answer that question fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support. Sorry for misunderstanding that the first time. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Kita Creek, who puts in a $10 donation and says, Enforcer, the thumbnail for yesterday's stream was spot on. I immediately recognized it from the footage you presented on the day it was struck. Anyone truly following the news should too.
And thank you for the support, and thank you for understanding that that was from a while ago, because how I make my thumbnails is I type in something like Kerch Bridge. Wait, hang on. I've actually been trying to look at pictures of it under construction now, trying to figure out how it was built. Well, let me go to images. And you'll see that some of the first images that pop up for the Kerch Bridge was when it was on fire, and I believe it was actually this one here that may have been used for the thumbnail. I'm not really sure about that, though. It could have been a different one. Anyways, the reason why I used this one last night, to clarify this again, because I don't know why people are not understanding this, is because the bridge is out of action because of the damage that was caused by that fire in October from the explosion that happened then. And so why in the hell would I show a normal picture of the bridge when the damage and the reason why it's been knocked out was because of all the damage it sustained back in October? And now it's finally suffering because of those damages. That's why the original thumbnail was picked that way. And we made it clear from the start of the stream, literally within minutes, that the bridge had not been hit. It had been taken out from that hit that happened in October. And we're seeing that that finally happened today. And then, of course, we got called clickbaiters, and then some other channel tried to take that moment to straight up lie about everything we do, and then the next day it comes out everywhere that the Kerch Bridge is now down and out for repairs, and they're removing bridge spans on that segment, and they're replacing them. So we actually ended up being the first one in the world to report on it, and instead of everyone going, wow, these people really do their job well, and always trying to make sure to report the most up-to-date news to us, instead, we get blasted for saying that we're clickbait, which just annoys the hell out of me, considering that I try and put as much effort as possible into trying to get the most up-to-date news. we got to it hours before anyone else did. And instead of everyone being like, wow, he's like covering a breaking story. No one has even covered this ever at all. So,
And I would even go as far as to say we're going to probably see this on mainstream news in the next couple of days. Would be my guess.
If we do, I want like I'm going to say this, not to like be rude or sound incredibly harsh or anything, but I would like an apology from the people who were in the live chat who wanted to just sit here and lambaste me for trying to cover news that was brand new, that we covered before anyone else. I know I'm never going to get that apology. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're talking to the choir.
Yeah, talking to the choir and talking to a brick wall there, because people become dead set and stuff. Like, like I sat there and people said the thumbnail was misleading, and then I sat there and thought, well, maybe it is. I don't know, because I thought it was fairly obvious. We laid out the news. This is from that damage that you see in the thumbnail. This is what's happening today. So then we went and changed it to another one, so that way it wouldn't show that. And I think it was one of a this one, actually. We changed it to this picture, showing a helicopter dropping water on the bridge. And, we tried to clear that up as best as possible. So, yeah, with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. And thank you so much for the support and understanding why we picked that thumbnail and what we were trying to convey with that. So with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support and helping us to keep this thing rolling, so that way you can keep on trying to cover breaking news like that and then be called clickbaiters. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And I'm with you, Trister, and also Packeting. They said just move on and put it behind you. And also Packeting says stop caring about what the trolls say. I have gotten to the point where I understand on the internet people are going to say things and you just got to let it go, because there's always going to be a group of people that doesn't like what you're doing. Even if there's like some honest criticism to be had, some people will take it way overboard, and that's what we saw the other day. But I'm definitely with y'all.
And also
Philip Fix has said Enforcer is easily baited, but he works hard and doesn't deserve the trap. And I have to say that
yeah, that's true. That is true.
The other people on other channels that hope to get a rise out of us, they are trying to bait us. I'm not sure if they're trying to get a free promotion or what. But it's simply trying to get a rise, or they're just trying to get even because they're jealous, one or the other. But trying to figure people out is like almost a lost cause sometimes. But Enforcer, what were you about to say?
I was just going to add on to that a little bit and say I do get baited easily, because for the amount of effort that I put into trying to make sure that this news runs. Like, if anyone actually went through a normal day for me, 7 days a week, y'all would see that I get like maybe 5 hours, 4 hours of free time a week, and that's even stretching. It's probably really 3. And and for me to work nonstop on this, and finally get some things before anyone else in the world gets them, and try and cover them firsthand, and then have people bash me for it, that does, I do fall for those traps in a way. Not going to fall for the big one, though, that's clearly out there. But yeah, I will admit that. That's a little bit of a failing of mine. But with that, we are on to the next one. I hope I addressed that fairly well. But yeah, y'all are right. I do fall for that stuff sometimes fairly easily due to the amount
Enforcer,
of effort.
Enforcer, when you ignore them, that burns them the worst. Like that. Honestly, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because when you ignore people, that fires them up even worse. But at the same time, you're not falling for the trap.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can totally agree with you, because we're watching that right now.
Yeah, there's one fellow that's stewing like crazy. I kind of feel bad for him, to be honest, because his behavior is kind of not really fitting to his age. Let's just say that the guy's a grown man and he's acting like a child. But we won't get into that too much, because we'd be falling for the trap like we just mentioned.
Yeah.
But up next we have a $10 super chat from David L. Yes.
I was about to say we're on to
the next one we have. Yes.
Okay, we gotta hang on. Put on the brakes. And with that, we're on to the next. So we were over talking each other like the whole time. We're on to the next one now. Sorry about that.
All right, and the next one is from David L, who puts in the 10. And says you guys are the only cast that I actually can LMFAO about this entire tragic war. So appreciated given the gravity of this horrible war.
And thank you for the support and enjoying the channel. We try our best to make sure that the news is the best it can be. And I'm very glad to know that you do find it to be a high quality and worth watching, because we try and make this, once again, the highest quality we can, the most up-to-date news we can. And I'm glad that we do meet that mark. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope I hope that you did enjoy tonight's stream as well. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Carolyn, who says, Kolomna has an Iskander missile design bureau. Search Kolomna Iskander TASS.
Kolomna Iskander. This is from Euromaidan Press. So let's check this out. Said they heard a loud blast of smoke coming up from a bridge that connects Pisky Station. One of the leading Russian scientific and construction centers for military equipment is located in Kolomna. That's all the article says. Damn, that is a short article, man. Whoever wrote that made a payday because they only had to write like 2 sentences and that was it. But let's go back to Kolomna. They said it apparently smoke was rising from the bridge, so I'm guessing it's the bridge out here or the bridge over here. Because there's only 2 of them. Actually, there's 3. There's a railroad bridge here too. Oh, the Moskva River is right here. Huh. Dude, the Moskva River is small. In America, I think we call this thing a creek. But anyways, moving on back down here. There are a lot of factories around Kolomna. And it is plausible that either they're getting that wrong and it didn't hit the bridge, it hit this building right over here, or it hit a design bureau somewhere around here. I'm not really sure, but that is incredibly interesting to hear that there is a design bureau for Iskanders around this area, and maybe that's what they were targeting. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. Hope that does address the comment fairly well, and thank you for sharing that with us, because you may be right. Also, interestingly enough, look at this. This is something cool. You can actually see the remnants of the old railroad tracks that used to be here and where the old bridge used to be, because they didn't even demolish the supports of the old bridge. They're just standing right near the new one.
Interesting.
That's how poor the Russians are, man. They are so poor they can't even properly take down a bridge. Dang.
Have to go to repair it, they just get like a bucket of spackling and like start smearing it all over it.
They start sitting there and paint these things blue. They can't listen. They're gone if you can't see them bleed. They'll blend in with the lake or whatever the hell this is. The Okra River. So with that, I hope that addresses that.
Okra.
Fried okra. Man, I could really go for some fried okra right now. It's time to get
I am starving tonight. I should have eaten more like before I came down here. That spaghetti did not hold me over at all.
It didn't hold me over at all either. I really want some fried okra right now. Like, I was just thinking about that when I saw okra. I was like, man, I was just thinking about fried okra. Like, I'm starving right now. Matthew is too. But with that, y'all aren't here to hear us say we're starving. Y'all are here for the question segment. And so with that, we're on to the next one. But thank you once again for the support and sharing with us that the Iskander Design Bureau may be in this town. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have that $10 super chat that Jay Bagwell sent in earlier and said bravo. And thank you, Jay. I did sneak in that damn son. So I hope you enjoyed that. And apparently he did because he said bravo. So thank you very much, Jay. And also, it's good to hear from you again. And hope everything's going well with the family. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from HerpDerpNV, who says, check out the Captain Hymar's Tungsten Berries meme that is a spinoff of Captain Crunch cereal. It really triggers the bots.
The what cereal?
It's Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch. Is it spelled with 2 Ks? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch. We're not sponsored by Captain Crunch, by the way.
Captain Crunch. Hey, man, he's capping.
Dude, why does that gorilla's face look so round?
Oh.
Interesting.
Is that Captain Crunch underwear? Come on now. Who?
Oh, come on.
Well, somebody in the chat probably wears it. They're gonna be like, don't make fun of me, man.
Dude, that hat, though. Oh, my. Let's see. Let's look at the Captain Crunches. Man, look at that. Captain Crunch. What the hell is this one? Oh, it's Halloween. They're trying to plug it to the kids. Merciless plugs. What else do we have around here? Chocolate Berry Crunch. You know, sometimes I just wonder, why in the world do some of these gimmicks come out in the cereal companies? And what the hell do these chicken wings or chicken tenders have to do with Captain Crunch? Oh, chicken Captain Crunch. What the hell? You're making... Oh, no, dude, they're making fry batter out of Captain Crunch cereal for this chicken.
I'd be all right with that.
Dude, that sounds gross, though. That's nasty sounding. What the hell? Captain Crunch,
Guilty.
prisoner of war? I don't know what the hell that means. That's from
Wait a
Food
minute.
Theory.
Is that Mr. Lunchtime?
Where?
Right there, the guy's guilty.
Oh, you mean Captain Crunch? Oh, yeah, maybe. Man.
Oh, man.
Had me thinking that there's someone else. Also...
But anyways, we're rabbit holing like crazy.
Look, Matthew, look. Wait a minute. Look, you got the person, the rivet counter over here. He's actually a commander, not a captain, according to his rank. Oh my god!
Somebody is breaking down the Captain Crunch guy for his rank. What has the internet come to?
Out of everything, he's a captain. He's a Captain Crunch. Who cares about the stupid sleeve? It's a cartoon character. I gotta tell you, man. Sometimes people take it too far. But anyways, with that. I thank you for the support. I hope the bots enjoyed us looking at Captain Crunch, and thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Sick Lid, who puts in a $10 donation, and he comes in with a spicy meatball. He says, Shakespeare wrote in Henry... I'm going to admit I don't know how to read Roman numerals. I hate to say.
Can you put in the live chat? I'll read it.
Henry V.I.
Henry the Sixth? Yeah, that's the sixth.
Okay. Henry the Sixth. He says, first, let's kill all the lawyers. Can we do that last?
Yeah, dude, dude, you're saying to kill me, man. But come on, man. And then someone's going to take that as I am a lawyer right now. No, I'm not. Come on, like, you know, come on, folks. Let's get it together, all right? Let's keep the story straight, all right? It's a joke. But anyways, you know, he may have said that. But at the same time, who's going to represent him when he kills all the lawyers? He's going to be charged for murder, and who's going to represent him at the trial? That's like Stalin saying, the doctors are in some kind of bougie conspiracy, and then he has all the doctors killed, and then he has a stroke, and there's no doctors that can help him, so he just dies from the stroke. But
yes.
Still.
And also, that was a joke earlier. That was a joke, just in case somebody, like, takes it out of context.
I'm going to report him, but it's still, I thank you so much for the support. I hate to hear that you say that, because that's going to be my profession in the future. But I do not agree with what you say, but I'll die for your right to say it. The most overused line probably in the United States. But with it, thank you once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
I see everybody saying, ouch. I don't know if they're saying that in response to I can't read Roman numerals, or they're saying ouch is like killing the lawyers. I don't know. But anyways, up next we have a $7 super chat from Flash1, who says, all the best from Australia, and please pick a question.
And thank you for all the best from Australia. And we will make sure to get a question from the live chat. I wish you said where you were in Australia, because we would have dropped down on Street View and taken a look at it. But still, thank you once again, and we will make sure to get that live chat. And thank you for being a Lee Spring Army viewer all the way from Australia.
All right, and the live chat question that we have here goes to Brian V, who says, did you hear about the riots and protests in Moldova?
I didn't hear about the riots or protests in Moldova, sadly. I haven't been keeping up to date on that. I try and keep up to date on the frontline news, and so most stuff passes me on other categories. So with that, I hope that sadly doesn't answer the question, because I don't really have an answer because I haven't seen it. And with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for sponsoring a live chat, and sadly I haven't seen it. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sean White, who puts in a 5 and says, the war zone reported today the drone footage you played was a dry run a couple of days ago, and the bombing run against the A-50 is coming soon.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because, and I thank you for the support, but I don't know if that's true, because we actually saw that A-50 flying out of the airport today, south of Minsk. I need to go find the name of it again, so that way I can make sure to try and say it right. The Moshchilysny airport. We saw it just leave that airport today, because someone was in this row of houses right down here, and the jet flew right over them, and they filmed it. So sadly, they won't be able to hit it with a bomb, but the scratch that they put on that dome was enough to put the thing out of service. So with that, I thank you once again for the support. Sadly, it looks like, from what we saw, it's already left the airfield. But we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Chip Kerwan, who puts in a 5 and says, losing Putin. Well, let's see. Let me he says something about Waterloo Flame Out Movie Works presents Scrubbing Bubbles, Flubbed, False Flag Flop.
Well, I thank you for the support.
Interesting.
Well, I thank you for the support. Interesting to hear that movie studio is giving us some very good stuff. And if you're talking about the Soviets filming the movie Waterloo, I would have to say that wasn't that bad. I mean, like Waterloo, that was actually a really good movie. If none of y'all seen it, they actually don't have it out on DVD or anything. You have to go get like a pirated copy of the thing. But it's impressive. I would say that. So thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, my son will be delivered tomorrow around 10 a.m. And also, congrats to you, Philip. He says, happy, 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 joy, joy, joy. Kid number 2 completes the boy-girl set. Gonna super chat less, but still here in Slava, Ukraine, and Slava LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, Philip, and congratulations on about to be having your second child. That is incredibly cool to hear, especially coming from someone who has no kids. So I hope you have a fun time with that second kid. Now you have the duo. The duo is complete. If you were working off of an ocean liner perspective, you might want a trio, so that way you can have 3 ships servicing the main routes instead of just 2, because it is more efficient. But they're not ships, they're kids. So 2 is fairly good. So with that, congratulations once again, Philip. I hope you have a fun time with that kid. Usually I hear that it's like the first 2 weeks that are the worst, but hey, you know, it gets better. And I'm sure you know that. You already had a kid before. I actually have no experience with it at all, but congratulations once again, and I hope you have a good time raising those kids, and I hope you're very proud of them, and I hope you're very proud of your family, because that's quite an accomplishment. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and while you won't be in the live chat much, we're still more than happy to have you as a member of the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And Philip said, she wants 3. Man. Well, good luck to you, Philip. You got your... Oh, yeah, good luck to you. But anyways, up next, we have a $5 super chat from Squamous Tarkus, who says, couldn't they be wearing the yellow to show support for Ukraine cause / opposition to Putin's regime?
I mean, they could. That's a good point. That could possibly be what they're doing. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions being thrown in. You know, like, why would the Ukrainians... why would they do that, considering they don't really have anything sanctioned from the Ukrainians? Don't they understand the implications of what that means for Ukraine? But still, that's a good point. They may be doing that to show their support to Ukraine, although they're not officially a part of the Ukrainian military. They were never given this mission by the Ukrainians either. So with that, I thank you once again for support. I hope that does address the question fairly well. And that is a really good point. And it may not be to show they are Ukrainian forces, but it may be to show that they're pro-Ukrainian. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Craft Appy, who puts in a 5 and says, fire joke. Yep, those drone operators are cooking. That bomb tank complete with turret toss ? Nah, a chef performing flips on a hibachi grill.
What? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Well,
it's a fire joke. Those drone operators are cooking. That bomb tank complete with turret toss ?
Man,
a chef performing flips on a hibachi grill. I don't get it, Crafty Happy.
Man, those tanks be cooking like a salmon. But still, thank you for the support. Sadly, that was going over my head. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because without folks like you, it wouldn't be possible. And I do thank you for the joke, because it is a good series of jokes. It's just that I don't know if they're all supposed to go together, and that's what's confusing me. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from JD Mako23, who says, Don, Ramzan Kadyrov, Don, hospitalized with serious, that bad bug going around, symptoms, Don, or was he poisoned, Don?
Let's see. Looks like there's no news out about him being in the hospital for the disease. So sadly, I can't back that up. I'm trying to sit here and look around. So I don't have anything to back that up with on an initial search. If he is, though, wouldn't doubt it. and kind of funny to hear. Maybe he'll get the bad variant. But still, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And make sure to keep us apprised and also send us any information you have on it as a link. And we'll try and look at it after the stream and do a little bit more digging on it. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
Bobo Uzala said, I'm dying, Don.
I'm dying, Don.
I have to live in this palace, Don. It's too much to bear. I can't live here anymore, Don.
The salmon chatter has gotten to me, inshallah. I'm dying,
Yes,
Don.
I'm down to my last Adidas tracksuit. How much longer can I last, Don?
I found out that ham is not halal, Don. I've been eating it my whole life, Don. We're on to the next
My
one.
life is a lie. But anyways, up next, we have a $5 super chat from Chip Kerwan once again. And thank you very much, Chip, for the support. He says, how about LSA Different General Order issuing LSA honor page in tribute to Colonel Starsky's brave, dedicated service?
Colonel Starsky? He's gotten promoted again? Oh, Captain. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Colonel, my Colonel. But still, thank you for the support. And that would be pretty cool to do. We might look into that. And so with that, I thank you once again for support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And let's see. Somebody said 17-hour surgery, not successful. Oh my God.
What? Where is it?
He's got me. If I read that off. Well, actually, I can probably read that off. Actually, I think you see Beeps and Eats the comment.
Are you looking at the live chat or the top chat?
Well, live chat, of course. Are you on top chat?
No, I'm on live chat, but I'm not seeing it.
Well, Beeps and Eats said, yes, a 17-hour surgery for Ramzan Kadyrov, not successful. His head's still up his ass, Don.
No! Oh my God. That's actually a good one. Beeps and Eats, that's a good one. That is the treasure that you've been trying to find this entire time. That was a great one right there. So with that, thank you for sharing that with us. That was actually top notch. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Midget Hobbit, who puts in a 5 and says, with the U.S. president giving massive amounts of resources, one would think he would be eager to solve domestic issues too. Oh, and sadly, that is political.
Oh, that is political, and I can already hear it coming down the pipe. Well, I thank you for the support. Sadly, we can't really cover that because it is inherently political, and we avoid politics on this channel because we just want everyone to be united in supporting Ukraine and not start dividing camps through political means. Although that's
Speak it.
I gotta preach it, Matthew. Let me get up on my pedestal. Let me preach it. All right? There's a place for politics. It's not here. All right? I don't mean that. I don't mean like I'm not talking down to you right now. Let me get that clear starting off. I'm just saying this is like a general thing, so don't take it badly. But there's a place for politics. There's a place for it, and there's a time for it, and those places and times are incredibly few and far in between. And this channel, the only statement we make is that we're pro-Ukrainian. We do not make any other statements. I know that's shocking these days. You can go anywhere in the world and you'll find a political statement from one side or the other. You can go to a football game and see political statements. You can go to a basketball game and see political statements. You can turn on the TV and every single channel is trying to make a political statement of some kind. We do not. So we can't cover any of that. Because if we do, we become everyone else. And we do not become the channel where you can come and watch the news and support Ukraine and not have to get all the extra baggage of hearing, you know, the right-wing side or the left-wing side or whatever side you want to pick. Really, there's only two.
They got you. They got you.
What do you mean?
They got you.
What do you mean?
They got the point.
Oh, well, I'm just preaching, man. I'm just preaching. But still, I thank you for the support. Sadly, we can't go into it. I was just doing the preaching thing to do it. But still, thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. Do not take that as me like scalding you or anything. It was not meant as that. But still, thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Yuri Bench, who says, good morning. Same morning in Ukraine and Tel Aviv.
And welcome, Yuri Bench. Welcome back. And thank you so much once again for the support all the way from Tel Aviv in the middle of Israel. Here it is right here. It's Tel Aviv Yafo. I'm going to start a petition to have it renamed as Tel Aviv Nafo.
Hey!
to our Nafo boys in the call. Hello. We're not in the call with anyone, though, so I don't know why I said that. But here's Tel Aviv. Pretty neat. So with that, also look.
That's like, it's like saying like, Tel Aviv. Tell them what?
Luna Park. Is this like a Coney Island ripoff?
Oh, 4.1 stars.
Wow, that's actually pretty hot.
What are the complaints?
You know what? We need to find out right now. Let's see. Sort lowest ratings. I went here yesterday with 2 of my children. We firstly had to park the car at another location and wait 10 to 15 minutes for a space. Once in the park, there were many queues. So long, the kids found it hard to stand. We managed to get only 3 of the many ancient-looking rides in the 3.5 hours we were there. I brought everyone food, including a few hot dogs and fries with a couple of drinks. Came around to about 300 ILS. I think that's shekels. I ate the hot dog and went home with severe stomach cramps and runs. Okay.
Man, too much information.
Despite all this, the kids enjoyed the experience, but I think they were just relieved to be anywhere other than in front of the various electronic devices for the day. So with all that,
dang,
unless you really like throwing money away, lots of queues and food poisoning, I would try to avoid this one. One of the traumatic experiences. One of the traumatic experiences. Like, this is just one of them in life. If you were with kids, but you don't or want or can't use the facilities, you still had to pay full price. 2, organizations below any acceptable level. 3, most employees were on their cell phones, so security was very questionable. 4, people were barbaric. What the hell? Including children. Nightmare. Too many youth groups. They take over all the lines and the security does nothing about it, especially if you're with young girls. They make them enter the game over the line. What the hell does that mean? I saw that more than 3 times. What, they're trying to get busy with the... What? Anyway, we spend more than 2 hours waiting in each game. Bad experience. Very small park.
Well,
never been to an amusement park that's nice.
Interesting.
Truly
It looks like the reviews are about the same.
I mean, everyone's saying this. Yeah, everyone is saying the same thing. Wait a minute, hang on. This one's short, though. So bad place to have fun with your family and so much people in the row of the games. Eh. Wait a minute, what? Horrible. Thief. And racist. What the?
Oh, goodness.
Man.
Well, we're getting late in the hour.
We are getting late in the hour. I would agree. So with that, we're on to the next. But I hope you all enjoyed us reading off the reviews of the Luna Park in Tel Aviv. But thank you once again for the support, Yuri Bench, and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and damn, back saying that was a hell of a joke. But anyways, up next we have a $5 super chat from Trister1, who says, "Yes, good work as always. Thicken your hides because politics is even more brutal. And truer words were never spoken." And thank you, Trista, for the support.
And thank you for the support, Tristan. I would agree with you. It is going to get rough in politics, but we'll just get tougher. I guess this is a training ground for me. So with that, thank you once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And damn, Packetang's coming in with the second rough lawyer joke. Wow.
I'm not seeing him. I think you've got to be on Top Chat, man, because I'm not seeing this stuff.
No, I'm live chat.
Let me go to Top Chat and let me see if I see it. Nope. I still don't see it. What the hell? Where is he? I don't see him.
He's in here. I see him.
Oh, well, with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to unnamed agency at an undisclosed location. Very secret. Puts in a $5 donation and says, "Don't listen to the haters, men. You have an awesome show in Slava Ukraine."
And I think...
And we won't. We will restrain ourselves from taking the bait and going for it because it takes a lot of self-restraint not to go right at, the person making the statements, but we're going to avoid it so that way we don't, get into that little petty YouTube beef.
Yeah, we're gonna avoid it. We're gonna avoid it because we're a little bit more mature than that. And we get a lot of credit. We don't get a lot of credit. We actually get a lot of people always saying that we're immature, and we do that because it's more fun for y'all. It's more fun for us, so we enjoy doing it. If you want to pretend like you're in the Pentagon, you can go elsewhere because this isn't the channel. We're gonna cover the war. We're gonna joke around, have a bit of fun. Make sure to keep everyone's spirits high. We're not gonna sit here and act like this is the Pentagon. So if you're a LARPer or something, this isn't for you. But I still thank you for enjoying it. and helping us to keep this thing running. And also, yes, we're not going to worry about that too much. And I thank the CIA for giving us an inspirational quote for a minute, because it does help. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. And also, Trista once said, Packatang is a doctor. I want to agree with you, but I don't want to offend the boys. Trista, you won't offend me one bit, because even Packatang knows the scoundrels in the legal industry are rampant. And there's definitely a lot of them. And lawyers kind of deserve the reputation that they get to an extent, because there's not a whole bunch of really good lawyers running around, or at least in my experience. But with that being said, we're on to our next one, which goes to Dubber Bob, who says, Slava Ukraine, and puts in a $2 donation.
And thank you so much for the support, Upper Bob. You've always thrown in support pretty much every day without fail. And Slava Ukraini. And thank you once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Chris Webb, who puts in a 2 and says something in Ukrainian and Slava Ukraine. I know that part.
And okay, well, thank you for the support. And Slava Ukraini. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from Midget Hobbit, and says, I don't know what that means, but let me forward that over to you.
Uh-oh, that's the first one going up for review for the night. Been missing Psyops. Hopefully he comes back soon. He's dealing with some things behind the scenes.
Yes, we want Psyops back.
Yeah, Psyops is a character, a very funny guy, and it's always fun to have him here. He's been dealing with some stuff behind the scenes for his own personal reasons. We won't say what it is, but we're wishing him the best of luck. If for some reason you've slipped on here for a second, Psyops, or if you're watching this, whenever, we're wishing you the best of luck, and we're hoping that you get through what's going on. But let me go and take this to review, and this says, let's see. You know, I gotta be honest with you, I am actually at a loss how to pronounce this one, so Slava Ukrainian. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address that fairly well. Also, we will check out the song. Sadly, we can't check that out on stream because it would get copyrighted, but I will check it out afterwards. Also, Hardstyle, please, everyone. When we're avoiding beef with people. We're not trying to have people go and find channels and say we're having beef with people. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to ignore.
And also to be clear, Ronnie is a great YouTuber, good news, and also speak the truth, good guy as well. So if that solves up the question, there you go.
Yeah, we're not trying to have people go and start like doing a sonar ping thing and figuring out who the beef is with. You know, if you wander around enough, you'll probably find them, because it's almost like the only thing they cover now on their channel. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dubsy Dapster, who does not leave a comment. But Dubsy, thank you very much. You put in that $2 super chat all the time, and we notice it all the time as well. So thank you very much for being so generous. And up next, we have a 5 from SJ Caddy. He says, have recently discovered this channel, amazing channel, approximately when 185 Bobcat skid steers had been destroyed. What is the oldest weapon used by both sides?
The oldest weapon used by both sides is the Maxim gun, by far, oldest one. Let's see, and you would have actually joined a while ago then, because it's been a while since 185 Bobcat skid steers have been destroyed. Probably about 2 months at this point, I think. But I gotta thank you so much for enjoying this channel enough to support us, because you know you're helping this thing to keep rolling. Every little bit counts. Every little bit helps us keep this rolling. It's the only way we keep this thing going too. We don't run ads or anything. Everything's ad free. So I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And it's the Maxim gun. The Maxim gun, by its year of production, beats out everything. It beats out the DP-28. It beats out the Mosin. Well, actually, let me check the Mosin. The Mosin, let's see, the Huron Maxim was produced, well, in service from 1886 to the present day, and the Mosin Nagant is probably around the very late 1800s. Yeah, designed in 1891. So, in fact, the Maxim gun is older than the Mosin Nagant bolt-action rifle. So this is the oldest weapon we have seen in use by either side. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I thank you so much once again for the support in helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Destantra, who puts in a 1 and says, warming up our Ruskies. Thanks for the fun. Laugh, laugh, laugh.
Well, I thank you for the support, and I thank you for enjoying us heating up those Ruskies. Hopefully they'll be nice and warm by the end of it all. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and with that being said, we are on to our live chat questions. Those are all of our super chats for now. So, up first, we have the Morse code, solved tonight by JP's RC's, C. Fay, Rumpelstiltskin, Cliff Simonson, and Mark Hodges. They said the Morse code is, looks like the Russians are having a warm spring in Moscow.
And they are. Did anyone see that fire? That thing's warm. So y'all did get that correct. So yes, y'all did get that correct, and it's a warm spring for them for sure already. And so with that, we're on to the next one. Thank y'all for deciphering that Morse code message again and again and again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And speaking of Pakatang earlier, we have a question from him. He says, do you agree that this war would not have happened if Russia had not failed 4 times at becoming democratic?
We actually had that question last night, I think.
It rang like a bell, but I wasn't sure.
Pakatang, if you asked that question last night, we answered that last night. I think it was towards the very end of the stream, like really towards the end. So I'm not going to answer it this time because we did answer it last night. But suffice to say, Russia's culture, due to what happened to it before, doesn't really support democracies well. It doesn't really work in Russia. So that is one of the reasons why it's failed so many times and why this war has kind of started. So with that, I hope that does.
Oh, guess what? I'll ask the second one from Pakatang. He said, if Ukraine was immediately accepted into NATO, would Russia withdraw? And is there another way to get Ukraine out of this war of attrition?
Sadly, there's really no way to get Ukraine out of the war of attrition. The only way to do that would be to join in and fight it for them. And that's definitely not something we're wanting to do. And if Ukraine joined NATO, that's a little bit of a conundrum. Because the Russians probably wouldn't leave because, there's no real good reason at that point to leave. They do control the land, and someone would have to take it from them still. So they would probably sit there and say, you may be NATO, but we're still fighting you because this war has been going on before they joined NATO, and NATO has no right to step in or interfere, even though Ukraine may be a NATO country. So I would say, I would have to say no and no. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to John B. Rempel, who says, Enforcer, I heard that the Azov Battalion ambushed a big convoy south of Soledar. Can you confirm?
South of Soledar. Didn't hear that today. So unfortunately, I can't confirm that because we didn't get any video evidence of that instance, and we rely on picture and video evidence for most frontline news. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Gregory Burke, who says, how long do you believe it will be until the start of the Chinese-Russian war over resources in Western Russia?
Probably won't happen because the Russians are so economically weak and the Chinese are such a willing buyer, they probably will be more than happy to sell their raw materials and resources from the Far East to China without the Chinese having to get involved in fighting a war. So I would have to say, in my opinion, that probably isn't going to happen because on top of that, China would have to administer that land, and that is a little costly. And they probably don't want to incur those costs because the Russians are incurring them and then selling their raw materials to China at a fairly good price, a fairly cheap one at that. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And also, we have a super chat from Midget Hobbit who puts in a 2, and still not sure what that means. That was in the last super chat, but unfortunately, I sent it to your DM.
Let's see. I see it, and let me put that in on YouTube and see what it shows up. Let's see.
And David, is that true? He said he had just seen that Maidar and his group are retreating from Bakhmut. Let's see if we can find information on that, because that would be big news.
Well, we might want to be careful, Matthew. No one else is reporting on it. We've got to report on everything after everyone else. We can't get the upper hand. But let's see. From what I just pulled up, it's something about Warhammer 40K. So I will check on that after the stream, Mitch Ovid. And thank you for the support and helping us to keep this thing running. Also, it has a character that YouTube doesn't really like in it at all. So I would show it, but for that reason, I'm scared to because they might get me. But have you found anything on that, Matthew?
Don't see anything yet on it. I'm looking at all my sources that I know to look for. Don't see anything. Also, if you could, David, tell us the source. That way I can try to narrow it down a little bit more.
I just typed in Madyar on Twitter. Let's see here. Madyar. I can't find anything on it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now, so can't confirm. But if it is true from a verified source, it's very fresh news. So, but we can't confirm it yet.
Yeah, sadly we can't confirm it, but we will be looking into that as much as we can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And he said he just watched his video on Reddit. So maybe while we're answering this question, maybe Enforcer can see if we can find that in the background. But anyways,
the Ray Knights thing.
No, the video of Madar saying that they're retreating from Bakhmut.
Oh, let me go and check that real quick on the second screen. And while we do that, Matthew, would you like to keep everyone company?
All right. So while the Enforcer's checking that, good night to you, Lewis. He said good night. He's going to see us tomorrow. And see you tomorrow, Lewis. Let's see. Beeps and Eats says, I've been searching. And Beeps and Eats, have you found anything? Because I haven't yet. Although I think inevitably a retreat is going to be the option that they end up having to take. Hopefully they don't wait too long, though, because there is a window of opportunity for them to actually leave without getting absolutely demolished. And hopefully they time that right. What have you found so far, Enforcer?
Let's see here. 1 second. Let's see. I have found it. Sadly, it does not have an English translation. But here is the video clip saying that Madyar and his group is retreating from the town. So there it is. But let's make sure it doesn't have an English translation. Sadly, it doesn't have a translation. But the caption says that Madyar and his crew are retreating from Bakhmut. But I don't have an exact translation to get the exact details from them, what that means and why and anything like that. But the title does say that they are withdrawing from Bakhmut. So it appears that
What did the comments say?
Oh, there was only one, and it was saying something like, oh, that's smart. That's a smart move. That was it. So, interesting. That may show that those reinforcements were being brought into Bakhmut, like I originally anticipated, to hold open a corridor so that way the troops inside of Bakhmut can withdraw to more advantageous positions. But we'll just wait and see. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Todd Abbott, who says, Enforcer, do you think that Poland would attack if for some reason it looked like Ukraine was going to fall?
I have a feeling they wouldn't, because that's they're in NATO, so that may start drawing in NATO in one shape or form, and there could be problems involved there. And of course, the U.S. could go, if you go to war, we're not going to give you any more Abrams or parts to run your Abrams with. And then that starts causing a lot of a bind and a lot of issues for the Poles. And then the Germans could also do the same. So there's a lot of diplomatic plays that could be made there that would stop the Polish from getting involved in the war. But they might. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I'd say it's somewhat unlikely. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, let's see here. It looks like Dan Neisch is offering to translate the video if you'd be willing to play it.
All right. So we'll go back and find it, and we'll play it. Let me go and find it.
Get ready, Dan. This is your chance. please translate.
It's going to be a huge delay from when we play it. So... No, go back. Go back. Go back. Woo! Dagnabbit. 1 second, let me go back and do it again. Come on. There we go. All right, so let me get that up. Let me move it over here. I'm gonna play it, and want to do its thing. Let me read the comments real quick. Let's see. So everyone's saying, yeah, withdrawal. So here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Бажаю міцного. Мадяр на зв'язку. Сьогодні, 2 березня.
Wait a minute, we've watched this video before.
Підрозділ Птахи Мадяра отримав.
I don't think we have.
бойове розпорядження негайно вибути з Бахмуту до нового місця бойових дій. Які причини переводу в момент критичний для Бахмуту, коли ми провели тут 110 днів бойових чергувань? Я перш за все військовий і тому не коментуватиму накази командування оборони Бахмуту. Я собі і вам обіцяв не займатися політикою. В армії немає і не може бути політики. В цій війні я був, є і буду комунікатором. Комунікатором на прикладі відносин між звичайним підрозділом аеророзвідки та вами, українці. Навіщо? Тому що ви надаєте необхідну підтримку, щоб були очі і працювало жало. Виконуємо наказ. Ви хочете знати мою думку? Ось вона. Питання не у медійності і не у відосах. Дорікати за бадабум і за джага-джага навряд є доречним. Днями я пообіцяв доставити дрони для понад 50 підрозділів. Ви зібрали на них гроші за 28 годин. Уловлюєте? В незалежності від місця нашого перебування дрони будуть. І вони будуть по 138 тисяч гривень з тепловізором, а не по 300, як у спекулянтів. А мадяр тепер уже точно завжди залишатиметься на зв'язку. Очі та жало. Слава Україні!
So that's the end of the clip. It looks like Dan is down there translating right now. So we'll see what the message is probably on our end here soon. So while we're waiting for that, we are on to the next one, and we'll circle back and read off all of Dan's here in a second.
All right, and the next question goes to Frequency Harmonic, who says, could the Ukrainians in Bryansk be the simple answer that they are Russian partisans that were fighting in Ukraine going across the border to test the reaction of the locals?
It could have been the case. That could have been what they were doing. But at the same time, why would they jeopardize the Ukrainians' position in the war and how the Russians are currently fighting to just see how people react and make such a big reaction from the Russian government? That would be, in my opinion, a very foolish move on their end, but that is possible, and that could be what they were trying to do. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one, let's see here. Also, I saw Dan say that apparently he's saying that they're moving from Bakhmut to a new area. Let's see. They will follow orders. He'll be a communicator and not political. Let's see. They will 138 Hrivny. Let's see. That's the last one I'm seeing so far. But it seems like if that video is accurate, that it looks like they might be moving on.
So it sounds like his unit is moving out. It doesn't sound like they're conducting a total withdrawal from Bakhmut. It sounded like his unit was moving out.
Interesting.
So I don't know what to take from that. It could be that they're withdrawing all forces from Bakhmut town. It could be that they're just withdrawing Madiyar from the area. Who really knows? But we'll just wait and see in the coming days. And y'all heard it here first. And thank you, Dan, for translating. Also, I see someone... I've been seeing this a little bit. We're on Twitter because we're trying to spread out and also get the news out in more places. Can't really help who runs Twitter. Couldn't help that beforehand. Can't help that now. We're just there. It's not supposed to be any kind of political statement, so I don't know why you're trying to make it one. So, you know, you can join if you want. If you don't, that's okay. So with that, we're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Bobo Uzala, who says, when will Ukrainian farmers begin planting this year? What major issues will they face?
Ukrainian planters will most likely begin sometime around March and early April because that's where they began last year. We'll probably see that they have to face the challenges of unexploded ordnance almost everywhere that there has been a front line or a prior front line, which will pose a lot of challenge and danger to the farmers because they could possibly be killed by explosives. But it will most likely occur sometime here in the future, in this month or the next one. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And also, Matthew, let's get Crafty Yappies, and then after we get Crafty Yappies, we'll get the last question of the night.
All right, and let's see here. Let me check one thing real fast. All right, so Crafty Appy put in a 5, and let's see. Joke alludes to Americanized Japanese restaurants. The chef cooks on a huge metal plate in your table and makes it fun to watch, often tossing it in the air.
Well, thank you for the support, Crafty Yappy. And intro. Oh, okay. So that's the fire joke stuff. All right. Well, I'm sorry. We misunderstood that completely. But I do thank you for the support. Thank you for the joke. It is a good joke now with context. And also, I've never really been to a hibachi restaurant, I don't believe. Or at least I haven't been to one in such a long time I can't remember. So with that, I thank you for the support. That may be why I didn't pick up on the jokes, because I have never really been to a hibachi restaurant. But thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running and also clarifying that, because that actually gives context to the joke. And so with that, we are now on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Activista, who says, did you hear about Russia draining the reservoir and causing concern to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant by IAEA?
I have not heard about that. Let's pull up the IAEA's website and let's see if they're saying anything about that. Services, news and events, press releases. So this was on the 2nd of March. Long delay today, impasse, complicated efforts to supply nuclear safety, military conflict, arrived at Europe's largest nuclear power plant, successful major forces contacting team had arrived, permanent presence, working closely with the plant's operating staff. It's a team leading today, several weeks longer than expected. We should also not forget NPR, blah, blah. Precarious nuclear safety and security situation was highlighted again. When the ZMPP's only remaining backup power line was disconnected for a 3rd time in less than a week, like it was shelling on the other side of the Dnieper River, the ISAM's team reported. Director General Grossi reiterated his determination to help protect the plant by agreeing and implementing a nuclear safety and security protection zone there, saying he was continuing his consultations with both Ukraine and the Russian Federation to achieve this important objective. So it doesn't seem like this report said anything about it from a quick glance. So sad. Let me go back to the 28th of February. Let me read through this one. I'm sure it's at the bottom. Let's see. No! Which currently receives... On a more reassuring note, the Director General Grossi said the water level in the main reservoir forming part of the Dnieper River, which provides cooling water for the ZMPP, had stabilized in recent weeks following the previously reported reduction in the amount of water held by the Kakhovka Dam. By design, the large cooling pond next to the ZMPP reactor units is kept above the level of the reservoir. So it appears that it was a problem at some point, but it had been fixed as far back as February 28th, and it appears to have not really been that much of a serious issue anymore. But still, a good question. And I hadn't heard about it, but it looks like the situation has been resolved, at least for now. And so, with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well, and it's now time for us to end tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. If you all did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment, and make sure to also go into the link in the description below and go join our Twitter, where we're putting out news throughout the day that we will be reporting on this channel later on every single night. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Good night, good luck, take care, and of course, Slava Ukraini.
Love Ukraine, Hiram Slava, and of course, more grain from Ukraine.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Згинуть наші ворожі.
свіженькі, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького